Hey, today's episode brought to you by one of my favorite sponsors. I'm talking, of course, about Sunset Lake, Seder.com. Use the code Left is Best. You get 20% off. Sunset Lake has the best Seder. They have it as something that you can smoke or keef. They have pre-rolls. They also have tinctures, all sorts of tinctures. Tinctures with Seder N as well as Seder. That helps you go to sleep. But they have tinctures with straight Seder and some with melatonin. It also helps you go to sleep. They have it in different concentrations. They have Seder lotion, which is honestly the only lotion I have ever put on my skin. And I do it rarely. I just don't generally like to do it. But it's unscented, which I love. And it's great. For whatever reason, my calves get very dry. That's weird. Also, they have Seder Solves, great for your muscles. I find it also pretty effective for my summer, what do you call it, eczema. They have Seder Coffee, Seder Fudge, all sorts of great products. They have gummies. They have gummies to help you relax, gummies to help you focus, gummies just to help you with a little bit of THC. So if you want to have some fun, maybe chill Friday night and just whatever. They're a great movement partner. They've donated thousands, tens of thousands of dollars, things like Strike Relief Fund and Refugee Resettlement and food pantries and Planned Parenthood and Give Directly, and they've involved in mutual aid. Just a great company, great folks, great business practices, $20 minimum wage, mostly employee-owned, regenerative farming practices, and integrated pest management. So no pesticides do they use on this. It's all third-party tested. Check it out. Get 20% off with the coupon code LEFTISBEST at sunsetlakesebede.com. Now time for the show.
The Majority Report with Sam Seder, where every day's Casual Friday. That means Monday is Casual Monday, Tuesday, Casual Tuesday, Wednesday, Casual Hump Day, Thursday, Casual Thurs, that's what we call it, and Friday, Casual Shabbat. The Majority Report with Sam Seder.
It is Friday, February 14th, 2025. My name is Sam Seder. This is the 5-time award-winning Majority Report. We are broadcasting live steps from the industrially ravaged Gowanus Canal in the heartland of America, downtown Brooklyn, USA. On the program today, Jeet Heer, National Affairs Correspondent for The Nation, looking back on this week that was, or continues to be,
insane.
Yes. And then we'll be talking briefly with Rahna Epting, Executive Director at MoveOn. In the wake of the Democrats, particularly Richie Torres, being resentful and rejecting the premise that they're not doing anything.
Oh, sorry we hurt his feelings.
Meanwhile, stunningly corrupt. Federal Society U.S. Attorney resigns after a quid pro quo between Trump and Mayor Adams.
Trump appointed her less than a month ago.
That was a brief stint. Meanwhile, Pete Hegseth steps on the proverbial rake, entering into Ukraine negotiations, or attempting to. House Republicans advance an austerity budget, or actually like 8 different versions of an austerity budget, except, of course, for massive tax cuts for the rich. Kash Patel approved by Senate Judiciary Committee, a party vote heading toward full Senate confirmation. The U.S. sanctions the International Criminal Court prosecutor for his investigation of Israeli war crimes and war criminals. Elon Musk begins illicitly cutting staff and shutting down civil rights actions at the Department of Education. Meanwhile, 14 states sue Musk and Trump for their unconstitutional power grab. And whoopsie, State Department puts its plan to buy $400 million worth of Teslas on ice. Looks a little awkward right at the moment. New research shows abortion bans increase birth rates and also infant mortality. All this and more on today's Majority Report. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. It is
Casual Friday.
Yeah, sort of. As casual as we can be these days. We got a lot to get to today. We haven't been able to end a show at 2:30 all week, really for like 2 weeks, I feel like.
And I still feel like we're not getting to all of the news that we need to get to.
No.
I mean, you know.
Fraction.
Like we had to make, Binder pointed this out in the Fun Half yesterday, you have to make decisions on what to headline. Just stories like people's bills in Alabama going up $100 immediately because of Donald Trump's cuts. These day-to-day things are what folks are really experiencing. Like, this is actually happening. This isn't just an online war like Elon Musk who wants you to believe, posting memes and gotchas and whatever. People are really, really being hurt by this.
Yep. And we need to, one of the things that we're going to talk to about to the executive director of MoveOn is, where do they fit in on this?
Yeah.
People have to start to line up to start taking different roles in the context of all this because there's so much information. There's so much to be done here. And so much, frankly, to capitalize upon. If people in Alabama are paying $100 extra because of a USDA, I think it is, cut somewhere, then those people need to know that it's because of what's happening in Washington. And, we all assume that people would know that, but that's not the case. And, who's telling them other than, we caught it in a blog post somewhere.
Right. It was Popular Information, I think, that that broke that. They're a good newsletter if people want to check them out.
But, I don't know how much people in Alabama who get a grant that assists low-income residents on their energy bills are aware that, their energy bills just went up $100. Surcharge because of that. Huntsville Utilities. And the $100 was a direct result of Trump's executive order.
Yep.
This is from cutting back on the LIHEAP funding.
Right. Low-income home energy assistance program.
Yep. Alabama had received $1 million of additional low-income heat. There you go.
Yeah. Long acronym.
As part of the IRA, or the Infrastructure, I should say, Investment and Jobs Act. And Trump rescinded it. We'll talk more about such things in a bit. But the big story, and this isn't just a New York story. I mean, this is a massive story. This level of unvarnished corruption is shocking. And it's only the shockingness is only enhanced by it's now 5 U.S. attorneys, I think, have quit in the Southern District of New York, led by the acting U.S. attorney who was appointed by Donald Trump a month ago.
On January 21st, he appointed her right after the inauguration. So no lefty, clerked for Scalia, had a scathing letter that came with her resignation on this front.
Let's start with that letter. This is a letter from Danielle Sassoon. And she is writing to Pamela Jo Bondi,
the Attorney General.
Attorney General. Dear Attorney General, this is, people ask me why I always do RE And I always thought like, oh, everybody knows what that is. It's just a lawyer thing.
Oh, people don't know it means regarding?
Yeah, I don't think so.
Okay.
I don't know. United States versus Eric Adams. Eric Adams being the mayor of New York City. Dear Attorney General Bondi, on February 10th, 2025, I received a memo from Acting Deputy Attorney General Emil Beauvais directing me to dismiss the indictment against Mayor Eric Adams without prejudice, subject to certain conditions, which would require leave of court. I do not repeat here the evidence against Adams that proves beyond a reasonable doubt that he committed federal crimes. Mr. Beauvais rightly has never called into question that case. Team conducted this investigation with integrity, and that the charges against Adams are serious and supported by fact and law. In other words, the acting attorney general never questioned the validity of the charges or the prosecution at all, neither the evidence or the actions by this office. Mr. Beauvais' memo, however, which directs me to dismiss an indictment returned by a duly constituted grand jury for reasons having nothing to do with the strength of the case, raises serious concerns that render the contemplated dismissal inconsistent with my ability and duty to prosecute federal crimes without fear or favor and to advance good faith arguments before the courts. And she goes on to talk about when she took her oath of office 3 weeks ago. 3 weeks ago. In other words, during the Trump administration.
I mean, the amount of corruption that have had to have happened for her in that 3-week period. I mean, I know that the woke mind virus is contagious, but I didn't know that it had gotten that contagious.
The woke mind virus lives on desks for sometimes up to 6 to 8 weeks. That's the part of the problem. And you don't go in there, and it's not going to just take like some, Clorox bleach.
No,
you really got to.
They didn't do the deep clean.
You got to use the same thing they use with the servers.
Did she clean the drapes?
She goes on to basically talk about, the oaths that you take if you're going to be a U.S. attorney and
the Constitution.
And the importance of our legal stuff and blah, blah,
Who
blah.
Who cares, nerds?
Go down, next paragraph. And then she goes on to talk about why I can't do this. Next paragraph. And then she goes through like the government doesn't have a valid basis to seek a dismissal. I mean, she's a lawyer, so she's going to go through this step by step by step. You know how it is. This is why nobody ever wants to rent to one of these lawyers. Keep going, scroll through, talking about how like, you can't really drop charges just to make a deal to tell the dude to do, to follow the executive's policies. Like, that's not a get out of free jail free card. And go down, keep going down, and then at one point, the memo suggests that the issue is merely removing an obstacle to Adams' ability to assist with federal immigration enforcement. This is the memo she got from Beauvais. But that does not bear scrutiny, which is a lawyer's way of saying like, but that's bullshit.
Yeah.
It does not grapple with the differential treatment Adams would receive compared to other elected officials, much less other criminal defendants. In other words, like, this is not, you can't do this for elected officials, and you also certainly can't do it for people who are facing criminal charges. And then the next paragraph she writes, rather than be rewarded, Adams' advocacy should be called out for what it is, an improper offer of immigration enforcement assistance in exchange for a dismissal of his case. So in other words,
boom.
Now, Adams met with the U.S. Attorney's Office, with the DOJ. And apparently, this is such a coincidence, Adams' attorney has also represented Trump in the past.
What?
And other people associated with Adams have represented Elon Musk in the past. Such a small world, isn't it? And they went in to talk to Beauvais, and apparently Beauvais said, like, I'll take this deal, which was Adams saying that, I'll do whatever you want, sir, in terms of immigration. I'll throw New Yorkers under the bus. You just let me know what you want, and I'll be happy to do it. Because my Turkish friends, they can't seem to help me out of this predicament. And so she writes back, rather than be rewarded, Adams' advocacy should be called out for what it is: an improper offer of immigration enforcement assistance in exchange for a dismissal of his case. I mean, I'm no lawyer, but when you offer something in return for the action of an attorney general to get you off a case, that sounds like to me like an offer of a bribe.
Well,
Like, it doesn't necessarily, like, I know, like, if Adams went in there and said, here's $25,000, drop the charges. Well, that's obviously a bribe. And if you went in there and said, like, here's a watch,
right?
that's obviously a bribe.
Obviously.
But what if it's something like, here's it has no value, but I know President Trump is a huge fan of I don't know, of this actor on Broadway. Nobody else seems to value this, but here's a signature. Has no monetary value, but it's something that they want.
Something that he would
Is that a bribe?
value.
I don't know. Maybe not technically, not under this Supreme Court, but it sure feels like that. Although Mr. Beauvais disclaimed any intention to exchange leniency in this case for Adams' assistance in enforcing federal law, that is the nature of the bargain laid bare in Mr. Beauvais' memo.
Exactly.
Now, this is crazy because I never, will you click on that? Yeah, click on that. I never, ever read footnotes. But if you can see, no, go back up there. You can see right there where Bradley's got the cursor. There's a little 1 there. That's a footnote. Now, I never read footnotes. I'm too lazy for that crap. But in this instance, it really is worth reading. So
Here it is.
As she writes, although Mr. Beauvais disclaimed any intention to exchange leniency in this case for Adams' assistance in enforcing federal law, footnote 1, let's go down to that. I attended a meeting on January 31st, 2025. Let's see. That's only 14 days ago. Gosh, maybe her memory's off. With Mr. Beauvais, Adams' counsel, and members of my office. Adams' attorneys repeatedly urged what amounted to a quid pro quo.
Boom.
Emma, I know you were forced to take Latin,
Yep.
just like I was. What does quid pro quo mean?
It means a bribe.
But literally, it means this for
Or that.
Oh, okay. That's weird. What amounted to a quid pro quo, indicating that Adams would be in a position to assist with the department's enforcement priorities only if the indictment were dismissed. Mr. Beauvais admonished a member of my team who took notes during that meeting and directed the collection of those notes at the meeting's conclusion. What? Is she saying that Mr. Beauvais attempted a cover-up of what was being discussed there by collecting notes and chastising people for taking notes? That seems super weird. Incidentally, this is from the Trump-appointed Federalist Society, U.S.
Scalia
Attorney.
clerk.
Scalia clerk. That's not the only letter. This one is from a guy named Hagen Scotton. That's a real name, Hagen Scotton. And he writes to Mr. Beauvais, he also an assistant U.S. attorney in that same office. Mr. Beauvais, I've received correspondence indicating that I refused your order to move to dismiss the indictment against Eric Adams without prejudice, subject to certain conditions, including the express possibility of reinstatement of the indictment. What has happened here is, you may have heard of the Saturday Night Massacre during the Nixon administration, where Nixon was trying to order his attorney general to do illegal things. And his attorney general said no, and then nobody said no. And Archibald Cox said no, and then they found some low-level flunky to ultimately do it. This is the situation they got here at the U.S. Attorney's Office.
Yep.
Because 5 people resigned rather than to move to dismiss the indictment against Eric Adams.
But that flunky that you describe is now the Attorney General of the United States, like in the sense that these people are resigning, right? But Pam Bondi for Donald Trump is the flunky.
Trump said do this
in charge. Yes.
Bondi did it and Beauvais did it. I mean, they're all doing it.
And Beauvais, right.
Yeah. And so he says, I received the correspondence indicating that I refused your order to move to dismiss. And he writes, that is not exactly correct. The U.S. Attorney, Danielle Sassoon, never asked me to file such a motion, and I therefore never had an opportunity to refuse. So he wants to make it clear he never refused to file that motion because I never was asked to do it. Then he goes on. But I am entirely in agreement with her decision not to do so for the reasons stated in her February 12th letter to Attorney General. In short, the first justification for the motion, that Damian Williams' role in the case has somehow tainted a valid indictment supported by ample evidence and pursued under 4 different U.S. attorneys, is so weak as to be transparently pretextual. In other words, your attempt to make it seem like there was something wrong with this case is total BS. The second justification that you added is worse. No system of ordered liberty can allow the government to use the carrot of dismissing charges or the stick of threatening to bring them, again, to induce an elected official to support its policy objectives. There is a tradition in public service of resigning in a last-ditch effort to head off serious mistakes. Some will view the mistake you are committing here in light of their generally negative views of the new administration. So in other words, some people have Trump derangement syndrome.
Right.
I do not share those views. In other words, I don't have the Trump derangement system. I can even understand how a chief executive like Donald Trump, I added that, whose background is in business and politics, might see the contemplated dismissal with leverage as a good, if distasteful, deal. But any assistant U.S. attorney like him, writer, would know that our laws and traditions do not allow using the prosecutorial power to influence other citizens, much less of elected officials, in this way. If no lawyer within earshot of the president is willing to give him that advice, then I expect you will eventually find someone who is enough of a fool or enough of a coward to file your motion. But it was never going to be me. Please consider this my resignation. It's been an honor to serve as prosecutor in the Southern District of New York. I don't know who Hagen Scott is.
I do. He used to clerk for one woke person named Chief Justice John Roberts.
No way. Well, I'll tell you what.
Bronze Star veteran as well.
If I ever want a resignation letter,
I'm
going to have this guy. I'm going to hire this guy to draft it for me.
But my point is that another person infected by wokeness who has a long history of conservative credentials, they have to fumigate the place.
There's so much woke going on over there. It's crazy.
Truly. But to be corny, it's an act of patriotism what they're doing. It's a good thing that what they're doing. Even though we probably have deep disagreements with them politically, they're doing the right thing. Yeah, I mean, if you don't have prosecutors who are upholding the law in this way, this is what should happen. Everybody should be resigning. Any decent human being associated with this administration should be resigning. Now, Well,
this time
federal
around,
workers
there's
have to
very
hold
few-
the line, though.
Oh, yeah,
Yes,
without
yes,
doubt.
yes.
But they're not associated with the administration.
Yes.
They work for the government.
Yes.
Last thing we need here. Let's play this clip of Eric Adams. He part of his deal, I guess, is to go on with Tom Homan.
Do a media tour.
Now, it's unclear to me where Tom Homan is pulling Eric Adams around. I wonder if they'd go to Fox News, and then maybe Homan goes out to eat and makes Eric Adams sit at like the kids' table. I wonder if
He's only allowed to speak when spoken to.
Is Adams supposed to drive Homan around? Do we know if he's supposed to drive him around or just carry his bags or whatever he's supposed to do? But here he is. Homan has brought his mayor to Fox and Friends, and what are they going to do here?
if he doesn't come through,
You're up early anyway.
if he doesn't come through, I'll be back in New York City,
Right.
and we won't be sitting on the couch. I'll be in his office, up his butt, saying, "Where the hell is the agreement we came to?" So,
And I want ICE to deliver. And I want ICE to deliver. We're going to deliver for the safety of the people of this city.
Oh, my God. Understand, Adams is on this show to talk about what he's going to do to attack New Yorkers, immigrants here. And Homan is here to make sure that, like, you know what to say. And he's going to assure the people at Fox News, if he doesn't do his deal, I'm going to be back. And he knows that I can call up Beauvais and I can call up Bondi and go, I'm unhappy with what Eric is doing. Maybe we have to maybe we have to revive that case. I mean, we are watching completely in public the extortion, bribery. It sort of goes both ways, right? I mean, it was a bribe to get me off, and then the extortion is we're going to bring back the charges if you don't do what we tell you.
Hold it over his head.
And if there was a secret phone call, if they had made this phone call, I mean, there's a reason why Beauvais wanted those notes.
Yep.
There's a reason why he said, I collect all notes. Nobody takes notes. I collect all notes. There's a reason why he said that.
Mob boss.
Had they made a phone call and the audio got leaked, it would have been quite clear. But because they did this so publicly, the press and the media and the rest of the whole country is like, wait, isn't this blatantly illegal? Oh, but they did it in public. So is it? It is. In a moment, we'll talk to Jeet Heer, National Affairs correspondent for The Nation magazine, about this and more things happening in our fair city and country. Incidentally, you got today to change your party affiliation to vote in the Democratic primary. Yes. So if your Working Families Party is really the only, that's now to register. I think you still have more time. Just confirm that for me.
You do, but you have to change it by today.
But if you are a Working Families Party member,
or a Green Party person,
I don't know if you're registered in that way or independent registered.
Right.
Today's the day to register as a Democrat, so you can vote for Zoran Mandami.
Yep. Let's go. He's getting real momentum.
And then you can put some other 2, 3 down there if you want. You know,
Landers. Yeah. That's what I'm doing.
A couple of sponsors today. One, first sponsor, ExpressVPN. Going online without ExpressVPN is like putting all your passwords and credit card numbers on a huge billboard for the whole world to see. That's a bad idea. Because even if one person driving by aren't going to use that to crack into your stuff, they're going to sell it. And then somebody's going to pair up that information with other information they can buy from a data broker. And then you're screwed. I want to thank ExpressVPN for supporting the Majority Report. And here's the deal. Visit expressvpn.com/majority. You can get an extra 4 months free. Every time you connect to an encrypted network in cafes, hotels, airports, etc., your online data is not secure. Any hacker on the same network can gain access, steal your personal data, passwords, bank logins, credit card details, etc. I mentioned this the other day. The copy says it doesn't take much technical know-how to hack somebody. Just cheap hardware is needed. A smart 12-year-old could do it. Whenever I'm with Saul, and if like we're at a museum or maybe a mall or like some there's like a game, one of those like whatever they call that, Tom and Jerry. I don't know what it is. But wherever there's a public Wi-Fi that I sign up on, he's always like, don't forget your VPN. I'm like, God bless you, little nerdy 11-year-old. Why? Because your data is valuable. Hackers can make up to $1,000 per person selling personal info on the dark web. ExpressVPN stops hackers from stealing your data by creating a secure, encrypted tunnel between your device and the internet. It would take a hacker with a supercomputer over 1 billion years to get past ExpressVPN's encryption. And by that point, you're probably, you passed away. Fire up the app and click one button to get protected. It's super easy. This is the thing I love about this. ExpressVPN works on all devices, phones, laptops, tablets, more. You can stay secure on the go. One click, you are safe. It's rated #1 by top tech reviewers like CNET and The Verge. Honestly, super easy to use, very important. Secure your online data today by visiting expressvpn.com/majority. That's expressvpn.com/majority. You can get an extra 4 months free. expressvpn.com/majority. Also, you can tell by my voice, I am still suffering from the cold that took me out last week. I'd say about 85%
Back.
The thing that I did on a consistent basis, because I had a sore throat, but also, wanted some medicinal qualities, was I pounded my Manacora honey. I put it in my tea. It helped my throat. I just took it straight when I'm trying to go to bed and I get my sore throat. It's incredibly soothing like honey is, but it's so much richer. It's like caramel. It's delicious. It really is very different. And it has much greater health benefits. Everybody knows the health benefits of honey. Manacora honey has like literally multiple times more benefit. Manacora honey it's rich, it's creamy. It is honestly the most delicious honey you've ever tried. It's ethically produced by Manacora's master beekeepers in the remote forests of New Zealand. Manacora honey contains powerful nutrients to support immunity and gut health. The bees collect the nectar from the Manuka tea tree in New Zealand. The nectar is packed with bioactives, and the honey that's produced has 3 times more antioxidants and prebiotics than your average honey. A special antibacterial compound called MGO also comes from the nectar of the tea tree. Manacora third-party tests every single harvest for what they call MGO, and it makes these results available through their QR system, and they literally label it on the honey. So you can get like MGO 850, you can get MGO, I think like 1035. It is a game changer. All you need, 1 heaped teaspoon each morning to get the most out of the amazing bioactives in Manuka. Additional usage throughout the day, of course, is completely fine. Certainly helped me with my cold. And you can use it to cut out other sweeteners. You use it just like you would normal honey. And more, though, because it's that good. Thanks to Manacora for supporting the Majority Report. Now it's easier than ever to try Manacora honey. Head to manacora.com/majority. Get $25 off the starter kit, which comes with an MGO 850 plus Manuka honey jar, 5 honey travel sticks, great for the kids' lunch, a wooden spoon, and a guidebook. That's manacora.com/majority for $25 off your starter kit. Quick break. When we come back, Jeet Heer. We are back. Sam Seder, Emma Vigeland, Majority Report, joining us now. Always a pleasure. Jeet Heer, National Affairs Correspondent for The Nation magazine. Jeet, two things. One, people are asking about the Working Families Party. As you know, today is the last day to switch your party affiliation if you want to vote in the Democratic primary. We were just talking about Eric Adams. People can be a member. I vote for the WFP on the party line and all that, but I am registered as a Democrat. I've had people at the WFP tell me register as a Democrat so you can vote in the primary.
Exactly.
And that's it. So I just want to clarify that.
Right.
The other thing, and Jeet just told us this, that I mentioned the Saturday Night Massacre.
Here,
we just read the letter from Gatton, from Hagen Scotton. Sorry.
Yeah.
And Hagen Scotton, one of the 5 U.S. attorneys who he wasn't asked, but he preemptively refused to file the motion to dismiss charges against Eric Adams. Harry Littman says he's got a strong rumor with credible sourcing, and other people have had similar sourcing. The DOJ has put all of the public integrity line attorneys in a room. This is all the people in this division in the Southern District of New York office. They're all in a room, and they just going around going like, you have an hour. One of you guys have to decide who is going to sign this motion to dismiss the charges against Eric Adams. And if nobody does, you'll all be fired.
Yes.
That is
this is happening right now as we're speaking. You mentioned the Saturday Night Massacre. The thing is, when you're doing this sort of purge or trying to force the DOJ to do something, you would always need to, the technical term is find the Bork. The Bork is the figure who has no ethics and who will sign off on something that everyone else will resign rather than sign off on. That's what happened with Nixon. People were resigning left, right, and center, and then they got to Bork, and Bork said, "Oh, I'll sign that."
And this is Robert Bork, who ultimately got rewarded with a nomination to the Supreme Court and ended up getting shot down. He's also the same Robert Bork who was at the University of Chicago, who came up under the Reagan administration with essentially an alteration of our antitrust law in this country that essentially destroyed antitrust for 40 years, really until the Biden administration.
Well, it's a funny thing because University of Chicago economics was strongly antitrust until somehow they got some money and suddenly switched overnight, and Bork became the argument, well, trust law is not good. But having said that, right now they're like looking for the Bork. The search for the Bork is on, and this is what it's going to hinge on. If they can find someone who can sign off on this, and they might not be able to, and then you're going to have a real purge. You're already having a purge. This is like a much more severe than the Saturday Night Massacre. It is like
it's the Valentine's Day Massacre.
Yeah, it's a Valentine's Day Massacre. Yeah, happy Valentine's Day, guys. You'll always be in my heart.
What's also,
don't do the Elon salute.
I mean, I wonder what happens in that room is really important, because I wonder how much this is going to be a signal to other U.S. attorneys across the country. I mean, you and I both remember the purging of U.S. attorneys in 2005 and lead up to 2004, where Karl Rove wanted there to be more cases of voter fraud. And you had U.S. attorneys across the country going like, I can't come up with any. Chris Christie delivered some stuff, but there were others that couldn't come up with any, and they were fired by the administration in what people thought was a violation of the Hatch Act. That sounds really quaint now in some respects, but the implications of these are Trumpies. These are not like, these are all like Federalist Society, clerking for Scalia and Gatton, apparently.
Chief
Hagen
John
Scotton,
Roberts.
John Roberts. I mean, these are.
Well, this is where like the Trump stuff has always hit the fan, because like if you are a lawyer, it doesn't matter if you're Federalist Society or if you're the ACLU, whatever, you actually like have signed on to certain oaths, and you have signed on, and your whole career and your whole future hinges on like you not doing being caught in situations where you're doing something unethical. And it's always been the case that that sort of Trumpist enterprise has sort of fallen into real problems when you have try to get lawyers to execute things that are unlawful. And I mean, I'm not a big fan of using the law as an instrument of like politics, but it is the case that where we've seen like people around Trump who have been punished, like Giuliani, it's always because like actually you have to actually follow the law. There are actually rules in this world.
Well, but this isn't what I'm talking about is as a political matter.
Yeah.
Watching attorneys, U.S. attorneys say, I'm not going to do this. I wonder what kind of pressure it puts on other U.S. attorneys around the government to say, hey, wait a second. This is embarrassing. And also, I mean, this is embarrassing. I mean, there's an interesting dynamic right now because particularly with these types of people.
Like, it actually like gets at the heart of like, what you want in a government. Like, do you just want like a Republican government or you want a government that's totally subservient to Trump? And, like there's a lot of regular Republicans that are just on board for like, we have a Republican president, we'll serve him. And this is going to be the sort of like crisis point. And I think it's actually like the Democrats would be insane not to make a huge stink about this, because this is actually like a real fissure point within the Republican coalition as to like what is actually you're going to actually do here. I think that like to actually like make the case that like if they buckle down under now, then like the DOJ across the country is going to be subservient to Trump. That's a big point.
But they may, right? Because if the Democratic Party likes anything, they like lawyers, right? And, I there is a lot of outrage in the legal community. I mean, specifically targeting the Southern District of New York and what that represents in the legal field. That is it's a shot across the bow and not in a good way.
Well, you guys might know this better than me, but what's the like New York State politics situation like? Because I'm hearing a lot of people crying for the governor to kind of intervene.
Well, this is, in New York State now, Delgado, who is lieutenant governor, who was picked by Hochul when Hochul had to replace the disgraced Andrew Cuomo, disgraced and the disgrace that is Andrew Cuomo. And he came out and said Adams should resign, before Hochul. And now Hochul apparently is.
I could see him primarying her.
Yes, taking it under advisement as to whether she will remove him, because while he's still under indictment, my understanding is she could. Now, she could also be sort of like trying to bide time, because once the indictment goes away, I don't know if she has the ability to do that.
Right. And I don't know why she would want to keep him unless it's just like, I don't know, general weakness, but it would be good for her politically if she were to remove him.
Oh, I think it's risky. And I think anything that speaks of a risk, and also and any risk that it could actually be helpful to her. She also is not very good in the like.
She's also like wants to play ball with Trump because Trump's getting involved in backing up Phil Murphy in New Jersey, who's trying to kill congestion pricing, which has already gone into effect and is supposed to statutorily fund our subway repairs and all of these like important new constructions. So I think that's part of it, right?
Yeah, I guess. I just don't know how he rescinds congestion pricing, but maybe what he does is says, like, I'm not giving you highway funds.
Right.
Unless you, something like that. I mean, we saw Reagan do that with the drinking age 40 years ago.
But can we just step back? Because, I mean, it seems to me like just watching this unfold, like, especially on Fox News, where, like, Adams was on with, like, one of Trump's DOJ person. And, I mean, like, this is openly corrupt as anything I've ever seen, where the guy was basically saying, like, if
he doesn't do his job, I'm coming back there and telling him we could arrest you again.
Yeah, so basically using the DOJ to, like, enforce a political will on the mayor of New York. Now, I have to think, like, I know congestion prices and federal funds or whatever, but I have to think if you're the governor of New York, like, to watch, like, the president of the United States illegitimately use the political leverage to, like, on television, like not in secret, like on television, to to strong arm the mayor of New York.
I need some time to think about it, Jeet. I need some time to think about it.
What did you get some political points for standing up to that? For saying we're New York City, we're New York State. We don't let Washington push us around.
They're so terrified. It's unbelievable. And
so
also
leverage you can gain from that.
And the other thing to consider is that not only is there so much leverage there, it's like hanging out there. And let's also be clear. Adams offered the bribe to the government. And then they said yes. And then they dismissed without prejudice so that they could extort him going forward. This is a bribery extortion case on both ends. It's pretty impressive. Were Kathy Hochul to make an issue of this, you suddenly can tie that into the 21st district, where Stefanik's race is up. And now they have put her nomination confirmation on ice because they're afraid they're not going to have the votes to pass whatever budget deals that they're doing. So we may not have a representative to the UN for a while.
Right.
But eventually her election's going to come up. And if Donald Trump is painted as trying to bribe and extort New York State, this doesn't even have to be anything other than hey, New York pride, whatever it is.
Where's
New
your
York's
strong.
New York's the Istanbul of America, right?
Where's your sense of you have to stand up for where you are, just as a have some sense of dignity, people. Just have some sense of self-worth. Beyond politics.
It's this is basically almost like sports, right? I mean, it's basically like sports. How could you do this?
Yeah.
We're the home of the Yankees and the Mets. We don't allow this.
But I mean, in a sense, they're allowing Trump to be the New Yorker. He's the guy who's actually, I'm the tough guy. I'm gonna railroad everybody and go over them. And they're positioning themselves as weak defenders of the home county and who just buckle under. So just on a basic political level, I hate to tell these guys, they're professionals. Maybe they know what they're doing, but this seems totally idiotic. This is
you're absolutely. I mean, you're absolutely right. And I want to just sort of wait for another 5 or 10 minutes before we get to how the Democrats are not capitalizing on this stuff because we have more to catalog. But this is honestly one of the most. I mean, I was saying earlier, if this had been Danielle Sassoon in her letter says that Beauvais, the acting attorney general before Bondi got in there, was in a meeting with all of them and specifically said no notes. And then at the end of the meeting was I want to collect all your notes and collected all the notes. Had this been a phone call where the audio had leaked, it feels like it would be a much bigger scandal. But it's almost and this came up during the last Trump administration. The U.S. body politic, the media, the Democratic Party certainly, does not have the capacity to process this type of crime, essentially, when it's done without any shame. Our minds think that if you do something this wrong, you're going to try and hide it, not write it out in a letter to be made public. And then people are just well, how bad could it be?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, it's totally bad. I in terms of the politics, I would want to emphasize something, which is I do take the point that the Democratic leadership make, that you have to pick your fights. You can't be reacting to everything. You have to be strategic. But I have to say, to have the Department of Justice in crisis like this and openly going on television using blackmail against the mayor of New York City, if that's not a crisis, if that's not a political fight that you pick, then what fight will you pick?
Well, that's the thing, is that it's very difficult to figure out what it is that they're waiting for. But let's go through what we've seen. From your perspective, if you can't fight every battle, what have been the battles? What have been the most egregious things over the past mean, it's been almost 3 weeks since he's been elected, for almost 4 weeks. What are the most egregious things? Like, what are the ones that deserve the most attention?
Yeah, I mean the Musk stuff definitely, like just the sort of basically the coup of the administrative state and all that stuff is like illegal. And like have been doing some stuff, especially like the sort of like the courts level. To me, like that is core. The other stuff, like one can get outraged that Trump says like many vile things, right? But he doesn't necessarily act on them. Like I'm as opposed as can be to ethnic cleansing in Gaza, but like does actually Trump have, or taking over Canada, right? But like I don't necessarily see like these are things that are going to happen immediately. I don't see the mechanism for that. So we actually have to look at like what they're actually doing. And for me, the big fight is first of all this Adams thing, but beyond that, the Elon Musk thing. Those are where you have to be fighting.
Right. It just brought, but now what part of the Elon Musk thing? I mean, honestly, that is the difficult part, because it's hard in some ways to parse this stuff out. I know somebody who works in cancer research at a prominent New York hospital. They got a letter. It supposedly frozen the rescinding of these NIH grants, but he said they just lost 40% of their funding.
Yeah.
I got a IMer right here, who writes in, National Labor Relations Board attorney here, acting general counsel just rescinded a bunch of memos allowing student athletes to organize, outlawing non-competes, expanding National Labor Relations Board remedial powers, banning captive audience meetings, etc. He's not even a Trump guy. He's just a regular Republican. Like, what Musk is doing, aside from, is it, when you say what Musk is doing, are we talking about the unconstitutionality of it, or are we talking about the implications of each agency, how Americans are going to feel it?
Okay. I mean, I think you can make a distinction between the sort of big picture overview of like what is the original sin here, and then how it affects people. Because I think the second part is very relevant for how you organize. But the first part, I mean, I think you have to immediately say that this whole enterprise is totally illegitimate. There's no basis in the Constitution for like a private citizen who is part of an agency that is just created by executive order to go in and take over the federal government the way Musk has been doing. It's totally illegitimate, and it's also fraught with corruption because he's the world's richest man and he's getting access to all sorts of valuable things. Just like data is money, data is power. He's going to be able to data mine the government. That's all totally illegitimate, and I think that should be the case. That what we have here is a plutocratic takeover of the government. What Bernie talks about, oligarchy. This is the oligarchy right here. That's the main big picture political item. Now, having said that, once you make that argument, then to get people where it hurts, like mentioned, they're getting rid of cancer funding. They're hurting like all the agencies that people rely on. So you have to have a two-front thing. Keep the big picture in mind, but then also like actually specifically lay out all these outrages, and you can organize on a local level for that, because there's hospitals all across the country that are being affected. That's why I started to conceptualize this.
Okay, so let's just take the broader argument, right? Mm-hmm. How do you communicate that? I mean, as opposed to just saying it, right? Like, because I get it. I mean, there's a lot of people who ran around with their hair on fire. I was one of them, and frankly, I think it was justified during the first Trump administration.
And that's actually worked. We actually prevented a lot of bad things happening in Trump.
The resistance.
Okay.
Yeah. Resistance. Yeah. But in any case, yeah.
Okay. But when you have something this sort of fundamental, there is, Donald Trump cutting, and the Republicans voting to cut, the Republicans could have voted away the Affordable Care Act, and they could have gotten rid of health insurance for tens of millions of Americans. They could have, tens upon tens upon tens of millions of Americans. When you think about Medicaid, they could have rolled back all the patient protections that we have in the ACA, rescission and, caps and stuff like that. But that would not have been a breach of the Constitution. You would have immediately moved to that sort of second level thing of like, here is this kid who doesn't have health insurance anymore. Here is this 55-year-old who doesn't have health insurance anymore, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But in this instance, it is extra constitutional what he's doing.
Yeah.
Unconstitutional? What do the Democrats do to communicate that? Like what? It's one thing to go up and go like, people are getting aroused. The Baileys have called me. They're aroused. What are we gonna do here? Or what do you do to communicate that they're breaking the Constitution here? Do you not vote for anything? Do you say like, we're not going inside these chambers. We're not going to do any of this stuff.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that is a sort of indivisible type argument that you actually use all the levers that you have to just gum up the work and shut down the government. But to do that, you have to come to the conclusion first that, yes, this is a constitutional threat. This is a sort of existential threat to American democracy. And then you have to have a leadership that is committed to going all out and doing that. And then they absolutely have the ability to do that. It would not stop anything so much as slow things down like a great deal and then raise the urgency of the issue.
But that's the point. It would communicate to the American public something's really wrong here.
And you can tie it into the billionaire stuff. I mean, like you mentioned, just Elon Musk, this is going under the radar, but he is trying to turn Twitter into a bank, X, right?
Yes.
Because that's always been his dream with PayPal. And he's obsessed with payments. So he's like rifling around in the treasury. But Twitter announced it struck a deal with Visa to soon offer mobile payments as a service online. That is from 2 days ago, this article mentioning that. He's stealing. The billionaires are stealing from you because he wants to make a bank. I mean, that's pretty simple in terms of how you can communicate that.
Sure, and even like what's happening today, like J.D. Vance is in Europe talking to European diplomats, and a big part of his speech is you guys got to give Musk what he wants. So basically, the Vice President of the United States has made American foreign policy subservient to this billionaire who also happens to be put in charge of the American government.
He was sitting next to Modi like he was the goddamn head of state yesterday talking to him.
Yeah. Now, in terms of the communication, like, I do know, I got to give credit. They did set up a rapid response team chaired by Rosie DeLauro, who's actually quite admirable, 81 years old, and Jerry Connolly, 74, has, I think, a pretty severe case of cancer.
But he's the most spry. He's the most spry of cancer patients on the Hill.
So I would say that, like, if you're having communicating your urgency, having a rapid response team that is it almost entirely consists of people that are senior citizens is not getting the message across. I mean, at a very basic level, like, and this is not going to happen, right? But like, I actually think like Schumer and Jeffries have to resign. Like they're clearly not in a mode to do that. And you have to put people in charge as the public face of the party who are fighters and who will know how to go on TV, know how to explain urgency, and who are committed to like a maximum resistance program. Like someone like AOC in the House or Bernie. Now they're not going to do that, but I mean, we could actually, for our part, like, because we're not the party, we can lay out like, this is what you have to do. This is like our position. This is like, if you're serious about this, if you're taking this stuff seriously, and once you have a leadership that is committed to fighting, then they can make a very simple proposition, which is we're going to have midterms coming up. Our proposition to the American people is what's happening now is an attack on the Constitution, attack on American democracy, and its open plutocracy. And if you give us a House and Senate, we will investigate the hell out of these guys and make them pay for what they're doing. Now, you make that your argument going forward. That's what they would do, I think, if they took this stuff as seriously as they should. Now, it's pretty clear from everything that Schumer and Jeffries have said that they do not take this stuff as seriously as you and I do, and that might be worth talking about.
Yeah, I mean, let's have that talk. They don't seem to take it seriously, and before they can get to, we will, if you give us the House and the Senate, we'll investigate the hell out of this. They need to be out there communicating there's a problem.
Yes,
and
yes.
if they're sitting there saying, people are getting aroused,
Right.
or we're getting, we will win. Or if,
Jeffrey says you don't swing at every pitch. Well, okay, but your swing is really weak. Like, you probably shouldn't be up at bat.
or you got to swing at a pitch. And here is Conley, on his call. This is his big call where he's talking about how we made the Republicans scramble, and he doesn't even have a freaking microphone. I mean, give me a break.
That's the thing, that whole Musk thing. Like, they held a meeting to like vote on like
A subpoena.
A subpoena, but they knew they didn't have the vote, and Connolly was thinking that some Republicans would vote for him, like as if he doesn't know the Republican Party for the last 30 years. And he also ended up saying, well, we got what we wanted, which is that you lost. So what you wanted, what your goal was to lose.
It's not even that, because look, they're going to lose. He said, we got what we wanted. We made them scramble. And it's like, dude, they just don't understand you are not going to win. They are not going to win any fight. But the whole point is they need to show the American public why they're fighting. In the loss, and it will be loss after loss after loss, but within each loss, they need to communicate to the American public, this is not the Democratic Party's loss. It is America's loss. It is not just our loss. We are fighting for you. It is your loss. You have lost. Every time we are not empowered to do anything, we are all losing. They are not communicating that, and they don't even seem to understand that's what they got to be doing.
No, that's absolutely right. And I want to think through a little bit like why they think this, because I think there's some good reporting. And a lot of this is coming from the donor class. And basically, the really big donors have told Schumer and Jeffries, like this is not an emergency. What is the stuff Trump is doing is going to be gummed up by the courts. And so you just let things run its course. You basically, Schumer's theory is you just let like Trump screw up, and then things will fall on your lap. And now I think that there's a couple of problems with that theory, but that is a theory. And also the donors are saying, like, ignore the base. I know you're getting a lot of calls from your constituents saying, like,
do something.
Why the hell aren't you doing anything? But just ignore those people, because we've done the analysis. This stuff is bad, but it's survivable, and more importantly, we have a mechanism in place, which is the courts. I think that is the actual thinking that's going on here. Now, I think it's worth unpacking. I mean, I want to give them credit in terms of like putting their analysis in the best case possible, and say, like, I actually do think that like trusting the courts is not totally false. There is, I think Trump has a very bad record in the courts. I think he has very bad lawyers. I think that there are fights that they are winning and could win in the future. It's not totally like the rule of law is actually a thing that exists to some degree, even if it's battered. So it's not totally wrong. But I also think that just relying on the courts is bad politics because it demobilizes people. It basically says, like, it's like Q, like, trust the plan, trust the judges. It gives people no reason to like pay attention to politics, to engage with politics, and to go in and protest and to be active members of your party. And beyond that, like, if they lose in the courts, but you don't have politicians that can communicate what these losses mean, can communicate the fact that the courts have shown that Trump has violated the Constitution, and this is a real illegitimate power grab. Unless you can articulate that idea, then the court decisions, they have consequences, but they don't have political consequences.
Exactly.
You have to be in the realm of politics. You can't just have the courts and no politics. The politics is, and you actually need the politics to like preserve the courts. You need the politics to give all these lawyers who like they're going to try to fire like some courage in some sense that like we're standing up for something and that people will respect us and that there's a bigger fight out there. So I just think like their whole analysis that like let's rely on the courts, and I don't think that works.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, it's completely contrary to what their role. I mean, they're out there saying we have no power. Literally, he's saying we have no leverage. Okay, well then how about doing some politics?
The Axios report that we have no leverage and that we're mad and we're angry and the people we're mad at are
I should tell you,
voters.
no, on Wednesday, and I just want to make this clear. On Wednesday, I called Richie Torres's office, both in the Bronx and in D.C. Nobody answered. I left a voicemail apologizing to him for because he really resents that we feel like they're not doing anything. He rejects and resents it, and we just want to apologize for upsetting him because I know, that this time of year is a good time of year to take a vacation. Maybe you want to go, I know my son's got vacation next week, and everybody wants to go and maybe get a little bit of sun or something like that, and we're really interfering with his potential, his trip to the Bahamas.
His R&R.
Or wherever was he going to go? Yeah. Give me your sense of like if Jeet, if you were one of the good billionaires. I don't think that these things exist. But let's say that one of the good billionaires came to you, or any billionaire, or let's just say, actually even better, we were able to pass one law that was we're going to appropriate billionaires' money. And as part of this law, Jeet Heer is in charge of building the infrastructure to deal with what's going on right now. If the Democrats' role, the elected Democrats' role would be to communicate to the American public what's going on with this attack on the administrative state is unconstitutional, first level. Second level, and here's how it's hurting individuals around the country. And to their credit, I've heard it floated. I don't know if they're going to do it. I've heard the floating of like creating a shadow government in some way. So like essentially a shadow head of the CDC, so that in the event that bird flu ends up continuing to become a greater problem, there's somebody every day who's putting out a report, saying, hey, I've collected all this information. The CDC is not allowed to release it. And we've been able to, and maybe there's a shadow, whatever. Where would the different players play? In other words, like if that's the role for the Democrats, where are the different groups? We're going to be talking to the ED of MoveOn in a minute. Where do these different groups, where should they function?
Okay. I think that their main function right now is actually like putting pressure on the Democratic Party to do some of this stuff, which they're not doing. But like, if you can get to a position where like the Democrats are in an active opposition, then I think the main role is one of sort of like communication, and to realize that the information environment is very hostile, and that basically one of the things that Musk is doing is using Twitter to spread like lies and propaganda and to defame civil servants. And you actually need like an alternative communication network to debunk that. Now, I'm not positive that I think all his lies are working. Like he keeps saying he's found all this fraud, and I think the media has actually done a pretty good job of saying that like they've actually found no fraud. But if you had like an active political movement that's out there keeping people engaged and informed about what is going on, that has an infrastructure in place, and that is like strongly like partisan and has a sense of, which side are you on? Who's your friend? Who's your enemy? And can define Musk in particular as the enemy, as the embodiment of this billionaire class that has like basically taken over the government. I think that would be the most effective use for these outside groups to actually like mobilize people. Now, I think currently the Democratic Party does not want their voters mobilized. Like they just want people to show up and vote in special elections and midterms. But actually, I think that if we can get the Democratic Party in opposition, then the secondary role is to just explain to people what's going on, because there's a lot of stuff going on, and there's a lot of different people that care about things. Like there'd be parents that care about the vaccination stuff. There'd be obviously like medical patients that care about like all the stuff they're doing to the healthcare system. Obviously, elderly people about Medicare and Social Security. So you actually need to which is something they've resisted doing, but like actually create an infrastructure for communication. an alternative media structure that actually doesn't just say give us money, we're fighting Donald Trump, send us $5, but is actually communicating with people what the crisis is.
Well said.
Well said. All this news just keeps pouring in. The AP is reporting that HHS is preparing to fire 5,000 employees this afternoon. So,
yeah. I do actually think just looking at all the people that are being fired, and these are people in very critical stuff, in terms of air traffic controller, people involved with nuclear power. I honestly feel like we're headed for a disaster of some sort, but you can't be like Chuck Schumer and just say a disaster will happen and then people will realize Trump is bad and come to us. You actually you need to have people who are going to explain what is the disaster when the disaster happens. And I'm pretty sure a disaster is heading our way. You need to actually be able to explain what happened.
We just had a plane crash that killed nearly 60 people. Have the Democrats been bringing that up at all after he threw the federal government into chaos? I don't use that politically. That's a disaster. Yeah. I mean, planes are falling out of the sky. We're all mad. I mean, I'm. It's just frustrating. Yeah,
I will put it. I mean, the Trump offers a good counterpoint to this, because when Biden was in power, anything bad that happened, East Palestine or whatever, they were out there. They were saying well, why isn't Pete Buttigieg doing something about the trains? Do we see anything comparable to that? Someone actually looking at what's going around and making them into the political arguments that they actually are.
No, they do the Laken Riley Act. They'll pick a white girl who was killed by somebody who was an immigrant, and they'll make a whole thing out of it. Where are the Democrats introducing legislation named Bill Johnson, who died last year because he wasn't able to get health care? That's what they need to be doing. Politicizing. It doesn't matter if they think it's performative or it's beneath them. Do politics. Act like you're resisting, even if you don't have the mechanisms to do it. That's the lesson here. So,
Jeet, sort of a pleasure.
Well, yeah,
in its own special way. Always a pleasure. Great to talk to you. We will talk to you soon. Yeah. As always, we will link to your latest piece in The Nation magazine, and to people go back and read what you've been saying for months and months and months. Really appreciate it.
Yeah. Oh, it's great to be on. And as I said, happy Valentine's Day.
Yeah.
Yes, you too.
Sorry, we didn't mean to yell at you. We're yelling with you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Bye, guys.
All right, folks, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll be talking to Rahna Epting, Executive Director at MoveOn, to find out what they're doing. We'll be right back. We are back. Sam Seder, Emma Vigeland on the Majority Report. It's a pleasure to welcome to the program Rahna Epting. She's the executive director at MoveOn.org. Rahna, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me, Sam.
So I'm reading the other day in Axios, as I sometimes do, not that often, but that some Democrats in the leadership are very, very upset.
They're mad at you.
Well, they're mad in general. And of course, what they're mad about is not Donald Trump or Elon Musk. They're mad that people are telling them that they should do something about Elon Musk and Donald Trump. And there were two groups that were cited in there. One was Indivisible, and one was MoveOn. MoveOn didn't have a response in that time. Have you been mean to Richie Torres?
Yeah, I mean, we didn't have a response because honestly, this is absolutely silly. I personally have done nothing to Richie Torres, but let me be clear about who's upset. It's his constituents. And you know what? The very fundamental act of democracy that we should be celebrating is when constituents reach out to the people they elected and express their concerns. And that's exactly what MoveOn helped tons of people do over the last couple of weeks, understandably, given the abomination of what's happening with this Trump-Musk presidency.
I'll tell you what I find really shocking is that it seems to me that there's, two ways in which you respond to getting all these calls from your constituents. One is to go, and I can see oh, this is annoying. We're getting so many calls. We have to have people answer the phone constantly, and they can't do things like get me coffee, or they can't do things like, reorganize the stationery or something like that. The other response is this is amazing. We've got to harness this energy. Mm-hmm. Oh my God, we haven't had this type of support in ages. It is such a good sign that people are this engaged. We need to come up with a plan of attack. And then the third option is to not only be annoyed, but then to cry about it in public that somehow, I don't get how you can both think that MoveOn or Indivisible or other groups or whatever, or, podcasts are activating so many people as to make it impossible for us to do our jobs when we've already said we have no leverage and can't do anything. That you both hold simultaneously their ability to move this much that can ruin what you're doing, but also they don't have anything to offer us in terms of power. How do you hold both those ideas in your head simultaneously?
Well, I don't know. Maybe you should invite Richie Torres on the show next.
Well, he has us blocked on Twitter.
He blocked me on Twitter a long time ago. I've never had an exchange with him, and he blocked me.
But I mean, he put his name to that quote, but there were others, obviously, right? Yeah.
I mean, what really is missing in this story is that MoveOn did nothing out of the ordinary, really, over the last 2 weeks. We normally make it easy for our members to call their elected leaders and make their voices heard. What was drastically different these last couple of weeks is how many people took us up on our offer to call their member of Congress. And that has nothing to do with what MoveOn's doing. That is a testament to the actual anger and fear that the Democratic base, who's really, MoveOn is a large slice of the Democratic base, is actually feeling right now. And so my wish is for these elected leaders that are so upset to instead say, wow, look at all these voters of mine that are reaching out to me and asking me for help. Let me take this opportunity to respond and work with them and organize this energy into power so we can beat back this very incredibly existentially dangerous administration and what they're trying to do.
It's they're sitting there shooting blanks. Yeah. And then all of a sudden somebody brings a dump truck up full of ammunition and they're like, please, we don't have the closet space or something. It's whoa. Go.
No, I mean, I just what can you just educate our audience as to what they can do? Because I think, it's true, of course, they don't have the House and they don't have the Senate. But what are some of the things in terms of just communicating to the public that this is an issue, performing politics? When you are in opposition, it draws attention. Using the bully pulpit. What can you just explain how that works and why it's so important that they do it?
Yes. So the leverage that senators have is different than the leverage than House members have. And, they've made that point very clearly and point taken. But it does, there are hard tools they have and there are the soft tools. And I think that what we're talking about is, actually, let me give an example. Some of these members are saying, well, folks in my district aren't alarmed. They're not talking about what's happening with the cuts with the Trump administration. And I think the answer here isn't, okay, so then not do anything. The answer is, oh, what's my job as an elected official? It's to help make sure my constituents understand what is happening in Washington and how that will directly impact me here at home. And how about hosting slews of town halls across your district.
Yes.
About calling your constituents, about sending them emails, about making sure going on in local media, making sure they understand what's happening. Like that is those are some of the soft tools that anybody can use. I don't care what you're hearing or not hearing from your voters in your district. But some of the hard tools, I would say, in the House, really, they have the historically slim margin in the House. Republicans have like 3 votes. That's, they can't afford to lose any of those. And what Trump and Musk are doing is not even popular with the Republican base. So it is actually possible to peel off some Republican votes here. And Democrats should be doing nothing to help them pass these exorbitant cuts to things like Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, cancer research, what have you. Democrats should leave all options on the table to prevent this from happening. It's only going to hurt constituents in red and constituents in blue districts. And then on the Senate side, there's a ton more leverage on the Senate side, denying quorum if Republicans don't have the 51 votes in the chamber, or blocking unanimous consent, or maxing out debate time, which we've seen many senators as of late leverage that power. But it's not that they don't have levers. They definitely have less. They don't control the House or the Senate, yes, but it doesn't mean they don't have anything. And to even say that they don't is concerning, because what really I think this last election was like, who is fighting for me?
Yeah.
That is what we have to make crystal clear, undeniable.
Can you imagine Mitch McConnell saying, I don't have any leverage in his heyday? Obama came in, massive electoral win in 2008. And you know what the Republicans said? We're not going to give him an inch. We're going to try to block everything. Mitch McConnell was successful in many ways in that regard. Can you imagine if after that he came out there and it was a much wider margin that Obama won by, and said, I don't have any leverage? Can you imagine that?
Not from that man, no. I think he's an evil genius who could write a master class and how to use leverage that's not even in the books, right? And how to create leverage that you never even had. But, we're not going to stop asking and encouraging and supporting and facilitating our members, who are voters, who are the base of the Democratic Party, to go out there and make their voices heard. And over this February recess week, that's exactly what we're going to continue to do, because there's nothing wrong with this. There's nothing to apologize for. This is exactly what we want people to be doing, is engaging in the civic process, in making sure that we're doing everything we can to stop Trump and Musk from stealing money out of our pockets and cutting lifelines for people in this country.
Rahna, give me a sense of what MoveOn, how MoveOn sees itself. Like, what is it supposed to be doing? I mean, I know the organization. I'm old enough to remember the organization got its start in the wake of the Clinton impeachment, when he was being impeached for lying in an affidavit about the definition of is and having sex with Monica Lewinsky. And MoveOn was born out of a sense of like, the country has more important things to be worried about.
Yeah.
Incidentally, half the people who brought those impeachment things were having active affairs at the time in the Republican Party. But put that aside. What is MoveOn like? Where do you fit in this? Like, what do you perceive your role to do?
Look, so that's a great question, and you have quite a good memory, Sam.
I'm old.
The heart of who we are is we give people tools to act together, to apply pressure to decision makers, whatever that may be. And so right now, the best thing we can do is to help regular folks out there make their voices heard in a highly concerning moment. And it is our elected officials that need to figure out how to solve the problems that's what we elected them to do. And so we are an expression or ability, we're giving people the ability to express their voices. And oftentimes, especially as of late, that has resulted in supporting Democrats or, supporting Biden or Harris to run for office. But it's not always the same. It depends on what's happening in the political climate. I'd say this moment we are in right now, an incredibly perilous moment where it's not just, it's not Bush v. Gore anymore. We're talking about people that who are rotting our government from the inside and stealing money, stealing hard-earned taxpayer dollars to strip away Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, cancer research, food stamps, so that they can increase tax cuts for the wealthy. That's what they're doing. It's all a grift. And it's creating a national security crisis at the same time. It's making all of us less safe. It's destabilizing, markets. It's destabilizing the global world order. So this is not Democrat v. Republican anymore. This is like billionaires versus the rest of us. And now more than ever, it's incredibly important that people make their voices heard. And we as people have leverage too. And that is people power and people pressure on the decision makers. And we're not going to let up because the stakes are just too high.
And do you have any mechanisms in which to get stories of how people are being impacted by what they're doing in terms of hollowing out our government?
Yeah, we sure do. I mean, we have millions of members all throughout the country who are or are going to be directly impacted by these cuts that they're threatening through this budget fight, or they're threatening through Elon Musk's efforts to bully his way through these federal agencies and turn off the spigot directly himself. But the way folks can really get engaged, we're moving out events all throughout the country next week. People can go to moveon.org/recess and they can host an event or join an event where we'll be meeting with our members of Congress. If they're Republicans, giving them holy hell about capitulating to these cuts. And if they're Democrats, calling on them to use all their levers of power to stop this and not give an inch.
Where's the event with Richie Torres? Can I go to that one?
I'll shoot you the email later.
All right, great. I really look forward to that.
Oh, I can't block you in real life.
No. Rahna Epting, Executive Director of MoveOn, thank you so much for coming on today. Appreciate it.
Thank you to both of you.
Thank you.
All right, folks.
It's a very, in the spirit of Valentine's Day, we, had a very spirited first half, I would say.
Yes.
It's very frustrating.
Very frustrating. But, it's just sort of, it's just fascinating, the idea that they would be complaining about this. Meanwhile, just we haven't had a chance to mention this. The AP has decided, just as a sort of a style guide, that they're not going to call the Gulf of Mexico the Gulf of America, because that's not what it is. And apparently the Trump administration is barring them from Air Force One even.
So can you I just want to, the pettiness of this, they're purging the Southern District of New York over Eric Adams and his Turkish flight corruption. And now they're banning the Associated Press because of the Gulf of Mexico name change? Okay.
Yep.
I mean, I want to call it the Gulf of the Majority Report.
Gulf of Sam.
Yeah.
The latest I've seen, and I don't know if you've seen anything else, Bradley, they supposedly found a federal prosecutor to sign the motion to dismiss the Adams case. But we don't know who that is yet. We don't know if that's actually going to happen. But Letitia James, apparently this is breaking, is filing bribery charges against Emile Beauvais.
Wow.
Wait, is she? No, maybe she isn't. I'm sorry. That's cancel that.
We can, I mean,
it would be a smart thing to do, because Beauvais is literally This is a soliciting and accepting a bribe. Amazing. All right. We'll see. Maybe people should call Letitia James' office and say, file a charge of bribery. Because, I mean, this is a pretty clear case. You literally could bring in a Federalist Society former U.S. prosecutor to testify. I was in the meeting and I heard the quid pro quo. Mm-hmm. In fact, I wrote in this memo, my resignation, that I heard the quid pro quo. This seems to me like low-hanging fruit. Before this is over, Letitia James is going to end up being the president of the United States.
Oh my gosh, I know. I mean, in terms of primary challengers for Hochul, being the person that goes after Trump and those guys is
that is the frustrating thing here is that the Democrats do not have legislative power. They do not. They have none. Even parliamentary power is limited in terms of the numbers that they have. They can clog things up and et cetera. But they have an enormous ability. There is so much material for them to make political hay out of. And particularly going into an off-year election, going into these special elections, there's 3 special elections happening. There's one happening in, what's his face? The guy who just got appointed to not DNI, but
Mike Waltz's district
in Florida. His 21st district, I think, in Florida. Also, I think it's the 21st district in New York and the 21st district in Florida.
Waltz's is the 6th in Florida, so maybe in New
and
York,
there's I think there's a public school teacher educator running. Josh something, I can't remember his name. But the point is that special elections and off-year elections are won by having people who are paying a high propensity voters, high essentially information voters win these elections. Democrats get these voters.
yes.
That's just the fact.
Yep.
They need to broaden this, but when you're talking about special elections and off-year elections, so the idea that Democrats going out there, the Democratic leadership going out there and being seen as having their hair on fire or crying wolf is stupid, because this is how you motivate the voters who are going to win these elections for the next 2 years.
Right. And this is not just ideological. This is what is just so frustrating. Like, I give this example because she's a great example, is Jasmine Crockett, who is a very mainstream Democrat. Again, she took crypto money. She voted to arm Israel as they're funding a genocide. We probably are not aligned politically. She's one of 10 max Democrats who understands how to do partisanship and do politics and perform it in especially this day and age. She goes viral, crapping all over Marjorie Taylor Greene and what's her face? Boebert and Nancy Mace, and makes them look like clowns. We're not asking for ideological purity, which is like the red herring that the Richie Torres types like to throw out there. We're asking you to fight. We're asking you to take the fight to Republicans, because it's not that hard. We have the facts on our side. We have the morality on our side. We have the Constitution on our side. We have a majority of the American public on issues on our side. Hop to it.
And the stuff that they're doing is having a material impact on people. You could be it should be bigger than, Judd Legum reporting at the Lever that you've got, I don't know how many tens
He's not
of thousands.
The Lever, Popular Info.
Excuse me, Popular
Yeah.
Info. Tens of thousands of Alabamans paying an extra $100 because Donald Trump canceled the LIHEAP program. All right, we got to take a quick break. Head into the fun half. You can support this program by becoming a member. Join themajorityreport.com. when you do, you not only get the fun half free of commercials, you get the free show free of commercials, you get the fun half too, whatever. Don't forget justcoffee.coop, fair trade coffee, hot chocolate. Use the coupon code majority, you get 10% off. Emma, ESVN.
Well, we are going on hiatus after this episode, but we ended with a good one, just because we have so much going on. I think I mentioned this, but, with this Trump administration, I'm also 4 months out from my wedding on today. I'm getting married on the 14th of June. So, yeah. So I've got a lot going on, but on ESPN, I lost to Bradley by one game. We were both above 500 for our little competition this year, so I had to eat this disgusting sour stuff that it wasn't disgusting. I mean, they were dried cranberries, but very sour, and I started sweating. You can check it out, youtube.com/ESPN show. Yeah.
Folks, we got a call about this the other day. A renters town hall in Portland. We'll put a link up today. This is happening February 22nd, so it's about a week and 8 days from today. 11:30 in the morning, Holgate Library. Good thing to do to start to organize around being a tenant or whatever you are. There's a bunch of other people like that.
Yes.
And that's a good thing to do. Start organizing around there. Build these networks. Portland DSA Housing Committee is, I think, running this one. But we'll put this link in the YouTube and podcast description. Bradley, what is happening on Left Reckoning?
On Left Reckoning, Matt and David spoke with historian and friend of the show, Alexander Avina, about the USAID funding battle in the Trump administration, and I believe an interview with Kylie Chung of Jezebel will be coming out as well relatively soon. So if you can check all of that out at youtube.com/Left Reckoning and go to patreon.com/Left Reckoning to subscribe and access their post game.
Yes, people are pointing out on the IMs that I'm getting married on Trump's birthday. I did discover that after picking the date, so...
Ooh, gross.
I know.
All right, see you in the fun half. 3 months from now, 6 months from now, 9 months from now, and I don't think it's going to be the same as it looks like in 6 months from now, and I don't know if it's necessarily going to be better 6 months from now than it is 3 months from now. But I think around 18 months out, we're going to look back and go like, wow. What is that going on? It's nuts. Wait a second. Hold on for a second.
The Majority Report.
Emma, welcome to the program.
Hey.
Matt.
What is up, everyone?
Nomiki.
You did it. Let's go, Brandon.
Let's go, Brandon.
Bradley, you want to say hello?
Sorry to disappoint everyone. I'm just a random guy.
It's all the boys today.
Fundamentally false.
No, I'm sorry. Women's...
Stop talking for a second. Now let me finish.
Where is this coming from, dude?
But dude, you want to smoke this 7A?
Yes.
Hi, me? Is this?
Yes.
Is this me?
Is it me?
It is you.
Is this me? Hello? Is this me?
I think it is you. Who is you? No sound. Every single freaking day. What's on your mind?
Sports. We can discuss free markets and we can discuss capitalism.
I'm gonna go throw up.
Libertarians. They're so stupid, though. Common sense says, of course.
Gobbledygook.
We fucking nailed him.
So what's 79 plus 21?
Challenge Matt.
I'm positively quivering. I believe 96, I want to say.
857-210-35 501 1/2 3/8
9/11, for instance.
$3,400, $1,900.
5, 4, $3 trillion sold. It's a zero-sum game.
Actually, you're making me think less of it.
But let me say this. Poop.
Call it satire. Sam goes with satire.
On top of it all,
Yeah.
my favorite part about you is just like every day, all day, like everything you do.
Without a doubt. Hey, buddy, we see you. All right, folks.
It's just the week being weeded out, obviously.
Yeah, sun's out, guns out. I don't know.
But you should know.
People just don't like to entertain ideas anymore.
I have a question. Who cares?
Our chat is enabled, folks.
I love it.
I do love that.
Look, gotta jump. Gotta be quick. I gotta jump.
I'm losing it, bro.
2 o'clock. We're already late, and the guy's being a dick. So screw him. Sent to a gulag?
Outrageous.
Like, what is wrong with you?
Love you. Bye.
Love you. Bye-bye. We are back. Sam Seder and Vigeland. Fun half of the Majority Report. Anarchy Fursuit. Let's go Worcester. On Tuesday night, the City Council in Worcester, Mass. I heard about this, like partially. Voted to become a sanctuary city for transgender and gender diverse people. There's footage of queer activists speaking at the Worcester City Council meeting in support of the resolution. They started singing Chappelle Roan songs. It was so amazing.
That's amazing.
And isn't Worcester where like the first Valentine's Day card or something?
That's correct.
Was originated?
Yes. Did you hear me say that today?
I did, but I saw it. I think on an AP newsletter there was an anniversary thing.
Oh.
They do like a this day in history.
Yes,
and it was
I thought you were playing
1874.
dumb. He said that like 15 times.
There's so many things that I can.
You can remember like who the state rep in Montana is in some obscure district, but like not.
It's just the detritus in my mind. Some comes, some goes away.
Yeah.
This is, I think it was in 1840 something. Where was it? Esther Howland in 1847 received an English Valentine from one of her father's business associates, and that inspired her career. She experimented with designs of her own and persuaded her father to order fancy papers, lace, and trimmings from his suppliers in England and Germany. And she made the first card. And in, look at that. In 1879, when she joined a partnership with Edward Taft, forming the New England Valentine Company, located on Main Street. Yep. There you go. In
That's
Worcester.
sweet.
Yep. Also, the birth control pill invented in Worcester.
That's
Oh,
two good developments.
not wholly unrelated, maybe. I don't know. Not inconceivable that at various times people could have looked around Worcester and said, "We need a birth control pill." I don't know what to tell you about this. This is one of the most bizarre things I could have ever imagined seeing, and disturbing things. As you know, RFK Jr. was confirmed yesterday by the Senate to chair the HHS, to be secretary of the HHS. It's a huge, sprawling agency.
80,000 employees, I think.
80,000 employees. Supposedly, his agenda is to make America healthy again. He wants the NIH to focus less on sort of acute diseases and more on holistic health issues. Maybe they will start to sell crystals. I'm not sure exactly what the NIH will do. But
colloidal silver in all of our water supply. We'll look nice. We'll be shiny looking.
Here is I saw a video of Kennedy, maybe about 10 years ago that somebody had put on there.
Right.
And it really is, his muscle mass has increased dramatically since the testosterone replacement therapy, which again, I've made it clear. Well, I feel like I'm 5-7 years out from that. I'll do it. But let's be clear, I'm going to be augmented.
Yes.
You're going to look at videos of me today, And like, oh, look at Sam's arms. Like he looks like a
wacky inflatable tube
Ernie
man.
and Bert arms.
Oh.
And then in 7 or 8 years, I'm going to start my testosterone replacement therapy. And the thing is, once you start, you can't stop.
Yeah, he has not stopped.
No. But if you stop for like a week or two, you start. You have no testosterone.
Yes.
Because it's literally
replacing it.
It replaces it. Your body stops producing any of it, and then you just turn into this weepy mess. So, and then you'll see me, and eventually I'll every now and then I'll be on Twitter, and you'll see like I'm like doing like there's Sam doing. Why is he doing like 20 push-ups on his Twitter feed?
Sam's gonna be a Muscle Beach bench pressing in jeans.
In the meantime, here is Kennedy saying that God delivered Donald Trump. Just go back a little bit.
For 20 years, I've gotten up every morning on my knees and prayed that God would put me in a position where I can end the childhood chronic disease epidemic in this country. On August 23rd of last year, God sent me President Trump. And he gave me he's now given me, he's kept every promise that he's made to me. He's
important.
kept his word in every account and gone way beyond it. I'm so grateful to you, Mr. President. A lot of people told me that I couldn't trust President Trump, that I better get it in writing. And we did a handshake, and everything that he told me he was going to do, he has done. And I'm so grateful to him, and I've told you before, I genuinely believe that you are a pivotal historical figure, and you are going to transform this country.
I mean,
that last part may be true.
He's definitely a historic figure.
And there may be a transformation, but it is the complete assault on all of the agencies that 20 years ago, before you started to pray on such a regular basis, you thought were important to protect the citizens of the United States, to protect the commons. And that's where we are.
I mean, the guy, I just was going through some of his most outrageous claims this morning, just because there's so many to choose from. Like, I mean, he claimed COVID was a Chinese bioweapon genetically engineered not to affect Ashkenazi Jews and Chinese people in that private donor meeting that was recorded. But like the stuff about
that was all very, very much about protecting Chinese restaurants.
Yes.
On Christmas.
I mean, I'm sure it had that effect. But the stuff about like HIV and AIDS is really disturbing to me. Again, I've said this before, but I had a family member who passed away from AIDS. And like he claims for over 100 pages in his book, I haven't read it, but this is according to the New York Times, and they have direct quotes, which I looked up, that essentially HIV is not the cause of AIDS, is what he posits. He says that in his book, this is the Times writes, the real Anthony Fauci, Mr. Kennedy revives debunked canards about HIV, like the idea that it is a harmless passenger virus and that gay men's promiscuity and use of recreational drugs and even antiretroviral drugs like AZT were the real cause of AIDS, while using his I'm just asking questions strategy to allow him to deny that he's an AIDS denialist himself. The quote is that AIDS was caused in part by, quote, heavy recreational drug use in gay men and drug addicts. Now, RFK Jr. has like a diary that was leaked about his sexual exploits. He is known to be extremely slutty and promiscuous, and also was a former heroin addict who said that it made him smarter in school. So the idea that he's reviving Reagan-era style homophobic conspiracism about HIV and AIDS is astounding to me. That's the person that just got confirmed to be Health and Human Services Secretary.
I take issue with the slutty comment. I don't think that we should be king shaming. The point is that he certainly is not one to be judgmental about other people's number of partners.
Well, I said it for emphasis, but sure. I mean, fair enough.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'm sorry if
Everything
I offended
else
you.
Well, no, I'm just standing up for those people who, it's fine. And,
Of course it's fine, but then don't
he
say
did this while he was
promiscuity.
married to somebody, and that's more problematic, certainly to his late ex-wife. Here is Kennedy, who on his campaign trail was like, I know exactly who to fire and who to hire to fix everything at all of these agencies.
You have a list of people that you already know need to be removed and quickly?
I have a list in my head, and we have a generic list of the kind of people that, if you've been involved in good science, you got nothing to worry about. If you care about public health, you got nothing to worry about. If you're in there working for the pharmaceutical industry, then I'd say you should move out and work for the pharmaceutical industry.
Oh, why not? Just make it official. Today, Senator, you have a list?
Yeah. Again, his definition of people who are working with one of the people that he have been relentless in attacking is Peter Hotez, who is literally the pharmaceutical industry's worst nightmare, making vaccinations that have not been commodified and instead have been delivered to literally millions upon millions of people around the globe at virtually at low to no cost. So, I mean, we'll see. But here is Mitch McConnell. Here's Donald Trump reacting to Mitch McConnell not voting for RFK. Now, let me just say, literally, a pox on all three of these people. On RFK for his anti-vaccination sentiments and what it could lead to in terms of, like, you see in a preview of this down in that Texas county where anti-vaxxers have refused to get their kids the measles vaccine. A pox on Mitch McConnell for being as responsible as any individual, I should say, in the country for Donald Trump's term. He was someone who could have theoretically hampered Trump's return to office or his ascension in the first place, but refused to do so because it's too delectable to get 250 Trump judges on the federal judiciary and get the Supreme Court for a generation. And then when he had the opportunity on January 6th, he took the opportunity to finally speak out against Trump. And then within like 5 days, he was done with that. And then lastly, a pox on Donald Trump. I hope he's the first one to get the bird flu. That now, because the CDC is completely shut down, and all the authorities who would actually deploy a national strategy to stopping the bird flu from traveling around and having the opportunity to mutate, I hope he's one of the first to get it. I don't know how that would be, but maybe the second to get it. I don't want to, you don't
need to be choosy,
okay,
right?
Here we go.
Mitch endorsed me, right?
Well, he did.
You think that was easy? What?
He had polio, obviously, and his.
I don't know. I don't know anything about. He had polio. He had polio.
Are you doubting that he had polio?
I have no idea if he had polio. All I can tell you about him is that he shouldn't have been leader. He knows that. He voted against Bobby. He votes against almost everything now. He's a very bitter guy, and we have a very strong party. And he's almost not even really a very powerful member. I'd say he's not he's lost his power, and it's affected his vote. And it's one of those things. But in the meantime, Bobby did great, got more votes than anybody thought, and I think he's going to do phenomenally, just phenomenally in that position. Mitch endorsed me, right?
Yeah.
Probably. How would you know if he had polio? How would you know? Were you guys hanging hanging down, wherever Mitch was. I guess he had it as an adult, right? A young adult, Mitch McConnell?
No, he had it as a kid.
Or he had it as a kid?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Someone maybe corrected me on that, or I'd said it the reverse, so I was second guessing myself. Either way, that's his go-to. He just doesn't know. That's what he'll say.
I don't know.
I mean, he didn't know if Obama was born in the United States, and he'll never know. So let's just keep asking questions.
How could I tell?
Yeah, in one debate moment, he brought up something about Biden's kids, and Biden got exercised because obviously he was mentioning Bo.
It's the one thing he cares about.
In the umbrella term, and Trump was just like, "Oh, I don't know anything about Bo." I'm like, it's always like if he hits and touches a nerve and he doesn't want to deal with it, he's just like, "I don't know anything about it."
Right. Or no, it's a fact that he doesn't want to deal with either, right? He'd rather go with the narrative that McConnell's a rhino than the fact that he could be personally affected if the polio be against the polio vaccine being rescinded.
Jake, you've covered this era of politics better than anyone else I've seen. Please blast a shofar for Stepa, a sweet little chihuahua who listened to many hours of your show. Corey, Marissa, and I miss him. I know you understand grieving animal friends. Thanks a ton. This goes out to Chihuahua. Deep Seek Thoughts. Wait, sorry. It just popped out. Where did that go? Please let the people know. Please let people know the AMA has a YouTube and it provides updates about every other day. Oh, yes. The CDC has stopped providing updates, but the American Medical Association is now providing updates on stuff, and you can check it out on YouTube. Thank you for that. Punch Drunk Pulpit. The Dems are deploying the Homer Simpson boxing strategy, letting your opponent punch you until they tire themselves out. Here's Bernie Sanders. Fritchie is saying, Al Franken said it best, Sam. Dems are wussies and repugs are bullies. I mean, I guess there's a combination of cowardice on the Democratic side. I do think that part of it is donor-driven and part of it is ideological, but not ideological as a first-order issue. It is, they come from a culture that is of consultants. And so they listen to consultants and they have a consultant's worldview, which is, I'm not going to get involved where I can hurt myself. That's not what I'm doing here. I'm standing on the sidelines. And if there's an opportunity for me to affect things, I'll do it, but I'm not going to put myself on the line. That's fundamentally a consultant worldview.
Right.
And it just
it shows, it looks like weakness, which it is. I mean, that's the popularism, Matt Iglesias model that is being renewed. I would say it's rebranded. It's just Clinton style politics of centrism, but just going with what the poll testing says as opposed to acting appropriately as a politician, like you have the ability to change the conversation, which is what the Republicans do all the time.
Here is Bernie Sanders, however, who has a slightly different perspective on these things.
Mr. President, in the midst of all of this, I think that now is the time to ask a very, very simple question, something I think that is on the minds of millions of Americans. What do Mr. Musk, Mr. Trump, and their fellow billionaires really want? Now, it's not really taking over Greenland or the Panama Canal, all that stuff. The real question is, what is their end game? What is their goal? What are they striving for? And in my view, the answer really is not complicated. It is not novel. It is not new. It is, in fact, exactly what ruling classes throughout history have always wanted and have always believed to be their right. And that is more power for themselves, more control for themselves, and more wealth for themselves. And in their pursuit of more power, more control, and more wealth, they are determined to not allow democracy and the rule of law to get in their way. For Mr. Musk and his fellow oligarchs, the needs, the concerns, the pain, the ideas, the dreams of ordinary people are simply an impediment to what they, the oligarchs, are entitled to. And that is really what they believe. They are entitled to all of the wealth and the power they have, and they are determined to stop anyone who gets in their way.
Sanders is going on a tour. I know he's going to Iowa City a week and a half from a week from tomorrow to go on this anti-oligarch tour. I mean, this is
going to districts that went from Biden to Trump, right? So Biden 2020, Trump 2024, right, which is what Democratic leadership should be doing.
Yes.
But Bernie Sanders has to step up here, and he does always.
I mean, this is important. This is it could have been said in a less defeatist tone, but as Hakeem Jeffrey said, they have no leverage. But the next thing is not. So what do we? Can't do anything. No, you can do stuff. You can make the loss that we are going to take, the loss of, cancer funding, the loss of help with heating or electricity or food or healthcare or the loss of jobs or the loss of job security. I mean, on and on. All of these things that the American public is losing. You can be out there finding different ways of making sure the American public knows who's to blame for this. And it's not just Elon Musk. It's the Republican Party. It's everybody that you're going to be running against.
Yep.
And I don't know why they can't seem to figure that out. Meanwhile, and I should also say, too, that Sanders' point is a pretty straightforward one. The reason why you destroy government is because government ultimately functions, and sometimes it can do a better job or a worse job, ultimately functions to curb corporate power, to curb the power of the wealthy and the elite. Now, our government has failed in a way that has made a lot of people out there sort of nihilistic and thinking the only way to curb the power of billionaires is to have other billionaires. But every agency that they're going after, in one form or another, inhibits the power of corporations.
Yep.
The reason why they fire the inspector generals of all these agencies is the people who are out there looking for fraud and waste in these agencies is because they're going in and they're destroying these agencies. They're not cutting out fraud. They're not cutting out waste. They're not doing an audit. They're trying to break these agencies.
Right. That and Musk in particular is doing a step further where Project 2025 and yes, like what the tech oligarchs want, they're working hand in hand. Musk is also rifling through the treasury, stealing people's personal information and looking at it as he does a deal with Visa to make X into a bank or a transaction service like Venmo. So he's both, destroying government to help the billionaires, and then in the process stealing from us for his own ends.
And understand, when Musk essentially shuts down the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, one of the functions that the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau does, and this was an agency that got built in the wake of the financial crisis in 2008, because under the Clinton years, the relationship between investment banks and commercial banks was no longer a firewall there. We had Glass-Steagall back from the Depression days. That was basically to protect. I was saying, like, if you guys want to gamble with people's money, You can gamble with people's money, but you cannot use vanilla banking money to gamble with, because that's when it becomes systemically problematic. And one of the things that Elon Musk will gain by destroying the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau is there will not be any cops on the beat to say, hey, wait a second. These services you want to provide through your website are banking services. If you're going to provide banking services, you're going to be subject to the banking regulations that protect the people who use your banking services. Now, he doesn't want that, because that requires having capital requirements. That requires having people make sure that your systems are secure. That requires all sorts of regulation to protect consumers that he's not interested in, because that cuts his costs.
Yep.
And then you see the flunkies and the idiots and the morons come out to defend him. Here is Dave Rubin. Sitting at a set wearing a nice suit purchased with probably the millions of dollars he received supposedly unwittingly from Russia.
Edward Gregorian.
Fake Edward Gregorian. Even Milo Yiannopoulos was laughing about this guy, and also blowing the whistle on the right-wingers who get funded by billionaires to buy views and then fake it till they make it, as he said. But leaving that aside, here's Dave Rubin showing A, that he's just a shill, B, that he is also a moron, and C, he's an incredible, misogynistic pig. It's gross. He has to do this because he's got to compensate. Remember, he lost a huge chunk of his audience when he and his husband had surrogate children. And so he's got to compensate. How can he get back into the brosphere?
The two. It's interesting. These people on the left, they pray to the altar of the state. They love the state. They love the institutions. They love the programs, right? She loves rattling off numbers. We're going to cut this, that, the other thing. It doesn't mean that any of it's working. The irony is the lefties always tell you how horrible America is and how nothing works right and we should be more socialist and everything else. And yet, when we start looking at, okay, like if the general premise is, well, maybe something isn't quite right here, things aren't quite working right, we're going to clean it up. You see how hysterical they get when you go to clean it up. And the reason is they want power. Nobody wants children not to get food, but that doesn't mean that the programs
Pause it for a
that are giving
second.
food.
You know what? It's not so much that nobody wants people not to get children to get food, but there's a significant portion of people who are like, I don't care if they get food. That's their problem.
Yeah,
survival of the fittest. It's not my job to pay taxes to feed other people's children. In fact, we just saw them cut a ton of U.S. aid. Literally, there's $500 million worth of food that is going to essentially rot on docks because of what they've cut. So it's not that they're like, well, we're trying to keep children from being fed, but are we withholding $500 million worth of food because we want to prove a point? Yeah. All right. Well, whatever. That's what it comes down to. Go ahead.
How hysterical they get when you go to clean it up. And the reason is they want power. Nobody wants children not to get food, but that doesn't mean that the programs that are giving food to the kids or after school programs, that any of it's being run properly. Again, we're just looking at the books, as I tweeted out this morning.
No, this is a total lie.
Yeah.
They're not just looking at the books. The inspector general, if they cared about auditing, they wouldn't have fired every inspector general that is working in these agencies. They are 100% not just looking at the books.
Right. Right.
It's just like a lie. It's just a total lie.
There are dozens of examples that you could come up with of the practical impacts that this has had, but they need this to just be online, liberal hysteria. Because if people start actually understanding what this means, it's an existential threat to this anti-government slop that he's feeding these just like baby birds in the audience.
Dave Rubin's audience must be just absolutely the dumbest human beings alive. Go ahead.
Food to the kids or after school programs, that any of it's being run properly. Again, we're just looking at the books. As I tweeted out this morning, if you were running a business, I run a couple businesses, right? If I'm running my businesses in the production company that runs Rubin Report, if I called my accountant this afternoon and I was like, can I see the books? I just want to see, I have X amount of employees, how much we're paying them, and we're doing this on overhead and equipment and travel. Can I just see the books? Because I want to see how much money we're making, and are there any places to tighten this up and spend a little bit better and blah, blah, blah. And my accountant was like, no, you can't see the books. Or the accountant was like, maybe next week. Or the accountant wasn't picking up the phone.
All right, this story is stupid. Go forward. Where's the part where he starts talking about the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau?
Because Trump is shutting down the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. This is a bureau that she helped create back in 2011 to make sure that, people weren't being screwed over by banks. Again, the intentions, what is it with Democrats? The intentions are always good. Did the agency do anything? Is it functional? Is it a giant slush fund? Well, we're trying to figure that out. But she's very upset.
Pause it. Wait. Like, what do you mean we're trying to figure this out? Like they've been operating in like a different kind. Like they've been operating 60 miles down below the surface of the earth, and we're having to dig this out. The Republicans have controlled the House for 2 years. They've had hearing after hearing. We know exactly what the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau has done.
Yes.
We know exactly what it's done. It has saved U.S. consumers $21 billion. That's the amount of compensation, principal reduction, canceled debts, other consumer relief from Consumer Financial Protection Bureau enforcement. They had just propagated a rule about banks cannot shift around payments out of your bank account to increase your overdraft fees.
Yeah.
They can't manipulate the order of when you have pulled money out of your bank to increase the amount of fees. They said your medical debt cannot be on your credit report to prevent you from getting a loan or from getting an apartment because you got hit by a bus one time. They have imposed civil money penalties on companies that violate the law. They have saved $6.1 billion worth of savings annually for consumers on overdraft stuff and insufficient fund fee policies.
It costs $800 million a year to fund this agency, and it has so far returned $21 billion to consumers
directly.
And if you want to use the business thing that he's trying to allude to here, I mean, gosh, it would be great if the government got a bunch of money out of nowhere from an Edward Gregorian, but all of this is transparent because it's for the public good. It's the government. It's not a private company. It's not the Twitter files. This is an X. We know where these things go. And we know that the CFPB, $800 million a year, $21 billion returned to everyday people. And you know what you would call that if you were talking about it as a business anyway? Good return on investment.
And that doesn't even count the sort of indirect implications of people knowing, oh, there's a cop on the beat. We're not gonna go and break into this car, as it were. Continue. And wait with it. Remember, Dave Rubin's all about ideas. Listen if you hear one sort of like fact, other than the fact that Elizabeth Warren is a shrill woman.
Yeah, I just wanted
which he describes.
I went back a tiny bit just to see how he describes Elizabeth Warren here.
Yeah.
Let's jump over to Elizabeth Warren because she's an interesting lady. Now, she loves murdering babies. That's the main thing about her. She really
pause
loves
it.
murdering babies.
I'm sorry now. Wait a second. Is this guy getting all biblical? Is he now anti-abortion? Is that his big thing? She loves murdering babies? Excuse me. How many of those IVF in those, like when you guys had a surrogate mother, how many of those IVF conceptions were thrown out? Because it wasn't just two. I want to know. People, Dave Rubin's audience should be asking about this. If Dave Rubin is very concerned about abortion as an issue, and his audience knows that that life starts at conception, they should start digging into how many babies Dave Rubin has directly killed.
They should look into that.
I mean, what's good for the goose, right? Go ahead.
Babies. She also loves socialism. While she's worth about 60 mil herself, and I've seen her several times here in DC, and she wears these very, very expensive outfits and everything else. She is very concerned because Trump is shutting down the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. This is a bureau that she helped create back in 2011 to make sure that, people weren't being screwed over by banks. Again, the intentions, what is it with Democrats? The intentions are always good. Did the agency do anything? Is it functional? Is it a giant slush fund? Well, we're trying to figure that out. But she's very upset, and she thinks that Trump's doing it because Elon wants your money on the Twitter machine.
Elon Musk owns X, which has been losing money like crazy. So Elon has a plan for a new payment platform called X Money. Elon wants X Money to touch every part of your financial life. But Elon has got a problem. The financial cops. The CFPB is there to make sure that Elon's new project can't scam you or steal your sensitive personal data. So Elon's solution, get rid of the cops, kill the CFPB. This is like a bank robber trying to fire the cops and turn off the alarms just before he strolls into the lobby.
Pause it for a second. Yeah, pause it for a second. Not a single thing that she said was incorrect, and he will not refute a single one of those things. Yes, Elon Musk has lost a tremendous amount of money, or his investors' money in X, however you want to decide that. Was it worth it to him? Well, it got a president elected, and his net worth is increased. Does he want to turn X into a banking style payment platform? 100%. Is he attacking and dismantling the agency that would regulate said platform? 100%. Now watch, Dave's going to give us a really good explanation.
But this is how you know he's that dumb, is that he played those comments in full.
Yes, exactly. He didn't even know. He's too stupid to realize he's got to take these out of context, or people are going to figure out. I mean, he's banking, no pun intended, on the complete idiocy of his audience.
Okay, here we go.
What a bitch.
Off, no one is forcing anyone to be on X or Twitter. Now, is it possible?
That's not what she said.
Pause it. No one's forcing anybody to go into any bank, but do you want that bank to have no regulation? Oh, I'm going into the bank that has no regulations. And do you think that people know? Do you think that people know, your average person knows to what extent what is regulated and what is not? No, there's a broad assumption. You just assume, hey, when I buy this, this drink at the Piggly Wiggly, I'm assuming that it's not going to give me botulism because there's somebody who's making sure that you're not supposed to package botulism. So now his argument is, well, if you don't have to be on X. It's just you. Caveat emptor. Give me a break. What a lame thing to say. Go back a little bit so we can hear the entirety of his lameness.
Okay, here we go. First off, no one is forcing anyone to be on X or Twitter. Now, is it possible that Elon's working on a payment system within X? It certainly is possible.
He is
at it before, but no one's forcing you to be on it. You can still have your Bitcoin.
No one said that.
I don't know, US dollars. You can still do commerce freely. But if what you're really saying here, lady, is that Elon Musk bought Twitter, something that was losing money, got into the fight with free speech, lost all his old friends, had to move his businesses out of California because of Gavin Newsom once he was supporting Donald Trump, did all of that so that somehow he could skirt your financial regulations and get everyone to buy things. Like, it's just so profoundly absurd. What you don't like, Elizabeth.
Okay.
Did he listen to the clip?
Yeah, maybe he doesn't. Maybe somebody else puts the clip up there and he just comes out with his. He is not addressing a single thing she said. She's not saying that he had this whole grand master plan. She said right now he's dismantling the agency that would inhibit his ability to rip people off or to operate a bank without any regulation. He's not going to address it.
And Andreessen was bringing her up, calling it her personal agency on Joe Rogan, too. The right can't spell out the acronym Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, and then try to make your argument without mentioning Elizabeth Warren's name. Because what they are trying to do is throw a bunch of misogyny at their audience because they don't like hearing Elizabeth Warren's voice and she's a little too opinionated and gosh, we can pick it apart. That's what they're trying to do. Hiding behind the misogynistic feelings.
I can't imagine that. Go ahead.
He could skirt your financial regulations and get everyone to buy things. Like, it's just so profoundly absurd. What you don't like, Elizabeth Warren, is that he is creating things. He is building things. And you, as a millionaire socialist, you want to lock everyone into the system that has been pretty damn good for you. But we can all see through it now. So you've got nothing left other than hysteria, right? That's it. By the way, I don't know if you guys know this, but we're all walking around with a phone in our hand, right? And our phone in our pocket. And we all have computers and laptops and iPads and everything else. The world is going more digital. So we will start figuring out new ways to have commerce with each other. The reason they don't want digital wallets and why they hate Bitcoin, of course, is that that's peer-to-peer. That means if you buy something from me and we do this digitally, I can just send you digital currency and it has nothing to do with the government. And then, Elizabeth, you're out of a job. We see you, you crazy fake Indian bitch. Let's jump over to
there you go. Okay. And look at you. You thought it was all about misogyny, but it was also about none of what he said has anything to do with it. First of all, she's not out of a job if there's digital currency.
She doesn't run it. Obama blocked her from running it. Remember?
He's such a moron. But the amazing thing is, it's just like his entire shtick must be, we'll put up Elizabeth Warren. I know people don't like her. I'm going to be able to call her a bitch. And then that's how I'm going to get my bona fides.
Did you guys, were you thinking about the fact that I'm a gay man? Well, I could be a misogynist as a gay man.
Of course. And listen, just in case you think that my whole IVF thing means that I'm not with you on the whole abortion thing, I'm going to put that in there too. Wow, it's so naked.
Yeah.
It really is so naked.
He didn't respond to anything she said and then called her a bitch. I mean, it's like you can't write this stuff.
When you see the desperation of a guy who lost his, obviously Gregorian was punching his meal ticket. I mean, that's when someone dumps, $2 or $3 million into your business, $4 million a year annually for doing nothing. You get used to that money.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden it's like, well, maybe we should just have a paper backdrop. That might be, let's just get a fake plant and a paper backdrop.
Downsizing.
Do we have time for this or do you got to go?
No, I can. We're Sam and I are actually doing an interview. I think we're doing this right with
Nathan Robinson.
So, but we can't do it in the same room because it echoes. So I got to run back to my apartment. Yeah, I can go at like 2:40. I think I can still make it. Yeah.
All right, let's do this. This is we should do 16 then 17. Is that it? Yeah. Credit where credit's due. That's what this
segment's about.
This segment's about. As you know, we have been talking about Project 2025 for probably a year at this point, and it has been accelerated by the entry in whatever it was, June or July or August, of the crypto tech bros, Peter Thiel, Elon Musk, Andreessen et al., who also had a similarly aligned incentive structure to attack the federal government. Look, Steve Bannon said this in 2017 at CPAC, maybe in February of 2017. Our agenda is to destroy the administrative state. Republicans have always done that. You can go back to, Rick Perry Ding Dong. I'm going to get rid of 3 government agencies. And he couldn't remember which one it was, but it was so part of the Republican ideology. And at the end of the first Trump administration, Russell Vought, as OMB director, had essentially hatched this plot, which they weren't able to basically put into place, but to get rid of civil servants, career people working at agencies with political appointees. Schedule F was the categorization of these workers.
And then Biden rescinded that, and then Trump, I think, now has put it back in place, right, upon coming back into office.
Yes. And this has been out there.
Vought talked about traumatizing federal workers.
And he and Vought worked for an outfit. He was doing this in conjunction with the Heritage Society, but he was
Heritage Foundation.
Heritage Foundation.
His think tank was called the Center for Renewing America.
Center for Renewing America. That was basically the Trump administration in exile. All right. So here is a clip from the Vanguard about people who were in Project 2025 denial.
So if you just type in TYT Project 2025, beautifully, the first search result, Trump's plan is not Project 2025. Who could believe it? That's crazy. Let's take a quick look and see exactly, what Anna had to say in this clip. Then we're going to take a look at one more.
So I totally believe this reporting. I think this is actually accurate reporting. And if reporters didn't just serve as stenographers for the Democratic Party, they would have maybe found out there's a different think tank that literally has the same slogan as Donald Trump, and they might have reported on that ahead of time instead, but they didn't. Go ahead,
and
Jake.
his top staffers were connected to it, including Kellyanne.
So this video is about how there's another plan that's, way less concerning than Project 2025. That, all these liberals in mainstream media and all these Democrats, they're freaking out and they want to fear monger about Project 2025. But in reality, there's this other one that like Kellyanne Conway is behind or something. And it's way less scary. It's way less scary. Actually, if Trump gets into power, it might not even be that dramatic at all. It's probably just going to be like any other Republican administration, right?
Yeah, I remember we reacted to this at the same time. And to Cenk's credit, this was before he had gone so soft on MAGA. He's actually pushing back on her from what I remember in this clip.
No, he's not. No? This one, he's not. There were other ones where he did. And this one, no, he goes on to say, yep, this is the real plan. I think we can watch him say that right here.
Conway, et cetera. So these guys are definitely in charge. And one of the Trump staffers on his campaign team said, they're not the transition team, but they kind of are. They said, he said, in effect, they are. Because we didn't have time to plan it. And here's a hilarious part of the story before I get to the worst part of the story. They said Trump is superstitious, so he didn't want to talk about a transition team at all before he won, which then greatly delays them.
Either way, that's the main part of that one.
First off, I don't know. We hadn't played that last part. Any 5 minutes worth of reporting beforehand knew that Russell Vought and the Heritage Foundation was literally building a dossier. I mean, we saw ads. They were literally like the Coalition Provisional Authority going into Iraq. We saw ads of them saying come in and apply. We need to check all your social media to make sure that you are a loyalist. We're putting you in a file. We'll contact you after. The idea that
in October, right? ProPublica released a video, and the quote was, "We want the bureaucrats to be traumatically affected. When they wake up in the morning, when we want them to not want to go to work because they are increasingly viewed as the villains. We want their funding to be shut down. We want to put them in trauma." So that, in conjunction with the fact that Vought had previously worked in the Trump administration, and that Project 2025 was authored by over 100 people who had previously worked in the Trump administration, should probably give you an indication that they were very serious about implementing this. And then remember Matt Walsh, MAGA troll, after the election? We don't need to pull it up. People can find it. But he said oh, here it is. Thank you, Bradley. Quick on the trigger here. Now that the election is over, I think we can finally say that, actually Project 2025 is the agenda.
Of course.
LOL. Because we know that that's how Republicans operate. They have no problem lying about things like this.
And so some folks were shaming people, literally shaming people, saying you're dupes, you have Trump derangement syndrome for believing this, blah, blah, blah. I know some people after the election were like, I'm happy that Trump is coming in and going to stir things up, whatever.
Eek.
But the point of this is credit where credit's due. Granted, it's behind a paywall, but according to the Vanguard, people have admitted that they made a mistake.
All right, back on TYT. Cenk and Anna with you guys. More news.
So I just want to address something. I was wrong about Project 2025. MAGA hates Project 2025, and I thought that Donald Trump actually cared about his base because in his first term, he seemed to be swayed by his base. He seemed to listen to his base.
Wait a second. Wait. MAGA hates Project 2025?
Where's the evidence of that?
What is this MAGA that they speak of? What is this? Make America Great hates Project 2025? Every single person involved in Project 2025 are the most Make America Great people there are. Like what is this whole idea that that this is a betrayal of Donald Trump? This is what Donald Trump ran on. They were talking about destruction of the administrative state in 2017. Schedule F was released in 2020 as he went out the door.
Right.
He's walking around with RFK who's saying we're going to get rid of all these agencies. We're going to get rid of the NIH. We're going to get rid of the CDC. We're going to get rid of all these agencies. They're walking around to all their people. Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. I mean, all of it. Well, like MAGA hates it. MAGA might not like Elon Musk because he's the least charismatic person in the world. But where is this evidence that MAGA hates what?
I thought we were giving credit.
No, I know. Well, I was giving credit for the but I didn't realize that part.
No, it's okay. I mean, I understand. I would say that downplaying the effects of Project 2025 prior to the election, as clearly they were engaging in, even as they were advertising themselves as a progressive network, is deeply shameful because we now see the effects of Project 2025 in real time, which includes cutting off, as you said, your friend that works in cancer research, 40% cut to that kind of funding. And these are the kind of things that we're going to see all across the country.
MAGA may hate, like the rest of America, the implications of these cuts.
Yes.
But not if we pretend that this was like, who knew?
Right. They would hate they're going to hate the implications because it's going to cause pain. And that's why it's incumbent upon media organizations to tell people prior to the election that this is going to cause pain when they implement it.
Like literally.
Yeah.
The condescension that was leveled at people who were taking this seriously, as if it was some type of conspiracy theory, like as if like the Heritage Foundation and the former OMB, who is clearly going to be the new OMB, it's a conspiracy that they spent months and months and years and millions of dollars drawing up a 150-page or 900-page document, whatever it was, and outlining exactly what they were going to do and bringing people in so they would have binders full of people. I mean, but at least dawn lights on Marblehead, although it seems to light, sometime around sunset.
Yeah.
And also now to say, like, this is not what MAGA want. Like, give me a break. Give me a frickin' break.
Go ahead, Bradley. Yeah.
Sorry, I just wanted to add. Do you guys remember that Russ Vought video where he was recorded undercover?
Yes, he was secretly recorded by some British journalist who came in. He goes, "Trump is distancing, but we're not worried about it."
Right, exactly.
Right.
So I wonder if they saw that, but maybe not. I don't know.
Do we want to play the rest of this?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because in his first term, he seemed to be swayed by his base. He seemed to listen to his base. This time around, not so much. So Russell Vought, as the head of the Office of Management and Budget, and considering what he just did with the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, makes it abundantly clear to me that they are implementing Project 2025. So I will admit when I'm wrong, I was wrong. I totally predicted incorrectly what would happen with Project 2025.
Oh, pause it. No, it's not. And I appreciate the Vanguard for doing this. Again, it is not the prediction. People make predictions all the time.
Right. I was wrong in my prediction about the election,
this
but
is not making
yeah,
like
right,
some type of
right.
like, poly market bet here.
Yeah, yeah.
Where
That's
the outcome
gambling mindset.
we can't tell.
Yeah. Yeah.
There was abundance amount of evidence of this. And even if your opinion, not prediction, opinion was, I can't see them doing this. This is pretty radical. The idea that you would mock people for believing it and saying it was a conspiracy theory. The people had Trump derangement syndrome. I'm sorry. Give me a break. But at least we can acknowledge what's actually ongoing.
Yes.
And I would recommend this go into the free part of their show so that their audience can know about it.
And emphasizing it. And, I will say, as long as people are issuing corrections, there was a claim made that we took money from the Kamala Harris campaign for our show. Now, that never happened. We've clarified that. It's laughable.
Whoa. We don't
Wait,
know.
actually.
We're still
Oh, wait, I'm sorry. There's a deadline on this poly market bet. I think, but you can... I'm sorry. Okay, so there's on Polymarket, you can gamble with crypto about whether or not Kamala bought ads on the Majority Report. Somebody bought a good amount of it.
Can we bet on this? Or do you have to be outside of America to bet on this?
I don't think it's legal in the United States, but somebody I think placed a bet. Can you scroll down to the holders, Bradley? There's some folks that first of all, so here it is, the rules. We can go to the rules, show more for the rules. On February 3rd, Anna Kasparian asserted that Kamala Harris bought ads on the Majority Report during her 2024 presidential campaign. This market will resolve to yes if a consensus of credible reporting and or disclosures from Kamala Harris's campaign or the Majority Report proves that Kamala Harris bought ads on the Majority Report during her blah, blah, blah. Otherwise, this market will resolve to no. Only direct purchases made by the campaign itself will count. Ads purchased by associated political action committees, super PACs, or other third-party organizations that are not directly a part of Kamala Harris's official campaign will not count. So, but March 31st deadline, I think.
Now, hold on for a second.
Yeah.
See, I have some questions here.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. First off, let me just say, we have never had any ads purchased by associated political action committees, PACs, super PACs, or any other third-party organization that are not directly part of Kamala Harris' official campaign. So that we can put out. That doesn't count. Mm-hmm. It says the market will resolve to a yes consensus if there's credible reporting and or disclosures from Harris's campaign or the Majority Report that proves that Harris bought ads on the Majority Report. Now, this is an ethical dilemma for us.
Yeah.
Because we have stated publicly that it absolutely is not the case that Kamala Harris or anybody else purchased ads in favor of Kamala Harris. In fact, whenever we have an ad, you know who paid for the ad because it is literally the company that we're advertising for.
Yeah, we read their name.
We have never, ever taken money.
Secret ads kind of like, how does that work?
Well, it's not inconceivable that the Harris campaign could say, like, we're going to pay the Majority Report $50,000 and we just want positive coverage.
Right.
We don't do that. There is nobody who's ever paid into the show, no entity. We have members. But nobody who's ever paid into the show outside of the membership tiers that you see on our page that we have not disclosed in the course of advertising. Mm-hmm. So, like you may say like, hey, I don't think it's appropriate for you to, push bidets on us.
Right.
But you are aware that we're doing that and because, Hello Tushy paid us. Mm-hmm. Okay. It's not like we're out there going, bidets are great, and we got a secret payment from Hello Tushy.
Right.
We're promoting. Now, I happen to think bidets are great, and I would have said that.
Oh, we know.
But that's my point. But here's the thing. We have the ability to manipulate, it seems to me, how that's resolved, whether it's yes or no.
Yeah, that's my question about this. Like, is this doesn't seem particularly ethical. I know Polymarket has purchased the rights to TYT's studio live from the Polymarket studios now, they say, basically on their broadcast. But you can just basically put a false claim on this crypto betting site that's not legal in the United States, and people can bet yes or no. And what's like the due diligence that this site has in terms of, like, you could,
if I wanted to make a lot of money,
you could make a claim, put it on there.
Couldn't I bet on the yes?
Yes.
It's 9 cents per share.
Right. It's gone
96.
down. Right.
Okay. It's only 9 cents per share. I could buy, I don't know, 100 of these things.
Look, go down, scroll to the holders. They're top holders. You can see here. There's somebody who bought 450 shares of yes.
But that's not even 450. That's like $45.
Okay.
Now, I could buy.
But they may have bought it at a higher point.
I could go in and buy 1,000 shares at 9 cents.
Yeah.
And then on March 31st or 30th, we could come out and say, yes, we did sell ads to Kamala Harris. And in fact, we aired it just at, 12:31 or, whatever, 2:31. And then we get the money. And then the next day we could say, just kidding.
Yeah.
In fact, April 1st, April Fools.
April Fools.
Like, couldn't we do that? Like, what, how does this work? Can someone write in and let us know on what protection there is for people? Because we could mess with this. I'm telling you folks right now at Polymarket, we're going to decide whether or not we put out proof of this.
Oh, I mean, guys, don't do this kind of thing. Guess
who's going to come in on April 1st?
Yeah.
Wearing a sweet-ass fur coat.
Oh, yeah.
Lots of bling. Get into my Bugatti and drive down here.
You'll finally be a high-value man.
My Bugatti from Polymarket.
Just want to credit our intern Isaac for his eagle eye in spotting.
Oh,
this.
yes, Isaac. Credit to Isaac. Who,
Thank you.
We didn't know about this until he texted us the link yesterday.
This was a great spot.
Yeah.
Huge pump and dump. We're going to get ready for this.
20-minute pump and dumps.
Oh, jeez. Yeah, I wish you didn't have to go there.
It's gonna be.
Excuse me.
That was your choice.
That's gonna be.
Folks.
All right, I gotta go.
That's gonna be our merch.
Emma's gonna leave. I'm gonna read
shot.
5 IMs, and then we're gonna get out of here.
Yeah. See you guys. Have a good weekend. Check us out on Nathan Robinson's show.
Yeah, I don't know what. We'll see what hopefully, he hasn't sent. He hasn't even sent a link. Oh, what's going on with that? I think it's today. I doubt the governor will remove Adams, says Dave from Jamaica. One thing about Democratic leadership, they tend not to act unless they're in the crosshairs. Really cool. Working family parties is a party line, but you don't register for it as a party. Yes, you can. Yes, you can. You don't have to, but you can. Some people do. Jerry at the beach. Did my grocery shopping last night, and I was $159. Trumpflation. I know, we got to get some militant apathy. Kennedy proves he's the DEI guy. Dude literally was shooting up heroin, making bird smoothies, and eating baby bears. Has no medical degree and was still confirmed. Yes. Dave from regular Estonia. Hey, I'm bribing over here. Doesn't mean in the matter of, not regarding? Isn't that the same thing? Vermont Ben. My uncle is the IG for the Federal Housing Financial Agency. He told me he hasn't been fired yet, but he believes it's definitely coming. They do not care about finding waste. If they did, they would empower IGs, not fire them. Dave Rubin might be the dumbest person in the political commentary space. I'm stupefied by how much his brain is turned to mud. Mike from Texas. I'm old enough to remember Inauguration Day 2009 when Mitch walked down to the Heritage Institute to talk to them about their plans for the days ahead. That's where he said our only one goal for the next 4 years will be to make Obama a one-term president. That was literally on the day Obama was inaugurated. Compare that to the Democratic response today. Jay Tingle. Are you guys going to mention the Nomiki Konst news? It was featured in the New York Post. No. I mean, if people are interested, they can Google to get the TMZ update. It's not terribly relevant to me. Circus in town. Congrats, Emma, on getting married on Trump's birthday. There are no mistakes. Hogtown. Putting money down on the Washington Generals on Poly Market. I ought to make a lot of money off of that. I got to figure out how that thing works. Bullprog. Prosecutors dropped the case against McMahon's sex abuse scandal this morning. Of course. Amazing. Amazing level of corruption. Noel from San Fran. Presidents can issue pardons. Now apparently they can issue parole. Indeed. NRLB worker. Oh, yeah, I already did that one. Phineas Herb. As long as the left continues to beg Dems to better represent polling, package criticism as bad at messaging, bad at politics, too adherent to respectability, they're doing the work of the DNC. I don't follow that. That is obfuscating the real problem. They are professional fundraisers with an allegiance to donors. Many of them are, indeed. I am, the idea that they don't feel pressure from their constituents is belied by the fact that they're complaining about pressure from their constituents. Now, they may not do anything about it. They certainly are going and still raising money from the tech bros and the crypto bros. At least a lot of them are. But your critique does not lend itself to any alternative plan. The reason why I push Democrats to do better is because it empowers the better Democrats. It marginally may move existing Democrats. It heightens the contradictions that exist within the Democratic Party and perhaps end up getting those Democrats replaced. And there is an absence, this is not a mutually exclusive project. We're very clear on telling people to organize as tenants, organize in the context of the DSA, organize as labor, of course. But as a political, purely like a political representation manner, at least on a national level, there's no other options. There simply isn't. How is it possible that there isn't a Green Party congressperson? They've been doing this for almost 35 years. They'll have a congressperson? I would love it if there was. I would love it if there was a half dozen Green Party congresspeople. But you have a national party that is convinced that their only purpose is to run a meaningless campaign for president every 4 years, and then they go away. Go into the witness protection program or something. Sam from Ottawa. Curious in your guys' opinion on us Canadians booing your anthem prior to the hockey land. Oh, all for it. I took that as a response to the actions of our government. It's good for Americans to understand that there's implications to the way that we act within the world. Even if those are tiny, tiny, tiny ones. Jody from Chicago. My friend said Delia Ramirez from Illinois is sending out emails and letters to her constituents, updating them about Musk's takeover. Good. Five more. Zach. Hey, Sam et al. Could you please explain what the donor class is? I hear leftists condemning the donor class, but what do they mean? If it's billionaires, why don't we say that? Well, it's not just billionaires. It can be, 100 millionaires. The idea is that there are networks of people who either give huge amounts of money or bundle huge amounts of money. And because fundraising is such a big part of what lawmakers do, these people are, whales. They go to them and they can get half their fundraising done, as opposed to soliciting small donors. But Sanders has shown that you can do this. You can solicit small donors and stay competitive financially. Some, I think, Democrats ideologically are just against that. They don't want to be beholden to the people. Some, I think, maybe find it harder to do. Some may not be aware that there's an opportunity for them to do this. I don't know how the percentages break down, but those are the different sides there. We'll give info on the interview. I haven't heard anything. I don't know what happened. Golden Oyster Cult. Hakeem Jeffries was just on CNN calling the SDNY resignations troubling. To be fair, it's hard to learn how to be effectively partisan when you're so busy washing the taste of Silicon Valley billionaires' boots out of your mouth. That's just stunning. Eli from Jersey. Jubilee of one guy versus 25 Dave Rubin fans, and it's just a bunch of swastikas tied to folding chairs. All right, 3 more of these. Anti-rocker. It's the Gulf of Freedom fries, I think. Top Herky. Sam, please, us leftists need a rug pull. Let's do this. JK. El Conniption. Did you guys not know Bill de Blasio's romantic partner is on your Fun Half song? And the final I am of the day, week. Holy cow. WTF Cody. It's sickening how obvious it is that you all work for Big Bidet Inc. Why do you continue to slander toilet paper? Suspicious. Bradley, Matt, Emma. Great job this week. Folks, we'll see you Monday.
It might take all the strength I got to get to where I want, but I know somehow I'm gonna get there. I wasn't looking when I just got caught between the truth and the light bar, but finding out won't make me feel any better. Yeah, I know the clock is ticking, but the meds are gonna kick in, and my pilot light shining bright. I get somewhere the choice was made, for the option where you don't get paid, for the road that bends before it finally breaks you. I guess somehow I lost my drive between the 101 and the 5. Do you know how far the detour takes you? Yeah, I know the clock is ticking, but the meds are gonna kick in, and my pilot light shining bright. The months drifted into years while I shifted in